Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Uchiha. Destroy Konoha at the start, Night of Genocide Fallout. Chapter 81. Chinhui swung his sword to slash those snake heads, and immediately exposed the front of Orochimaru. But even if Orochimaru wanted to get close to carry out a sneak attack, Chinhui would be able to return to the sword to block it. But Orochimaru was not an ordinary person. I saw Orochimaru's head suddenly stretched towards Chinhui, and his neck stretched like a snake. He opened his mouth and spit out a small snake from his mouth. Then the little snake opened his mouth and spit out the grass naginata sword hidden in the snake's mouth. The long and narrow grass naginata sword pierced Chinhui's neck directly under the dim light. "You are still too tender." Orochimaru with his big mouth open showed a weird smile. But the next moment, the smile on his face instantly solidified. The blow that was supposed to be inevitable was stabbed. Chinhui's figure disappeared inexplicably. "What are you thinking about?" When Orochimaru was stunned, Chinhui's teasing voice sounded behind him. He suddenly yelled badly, but before he could react, he suddenly felt a pain in his waist. Orochimaru looked down and saw that he had been caught. Chinhui cuts across. "Orochimaru-sama." The pocket watching the game not far away suddenly exclaimed, and then he quickly threw a few swords at Chinhui. This is naturally not a threat to Chinhui, but it still appropriately hinders Chinhui's pace of making up the knife. Although Chinhui is not going to make up the knife, after all, it is useless for him to have a dead Orochimaru. And at this moment, the Orochimaru that was cut in half changed again. I saw that from the place where Orochimaru was cut, countless snakes appeared from both halves of the body. The thin snakes interlaced each other, and then slammed. Orochimaru's incision body recovered in an instant. Seeing this, Chinhui couldn't help but said with emotion, "Although this technique is a bit disgusting, I have to say that you are really a genius." At this time Orochimaru also got up from the ground. He looked at Chinhui suspiciously, and said, unexpectedly, "Mr. Chinhui learned the space-time ninjutsu. Speaking of talent, how dare I compare with Chinhui-jun?" Chinhui shook his head and said, "I'm not talking about this kind of talent. And, it seems that you are still very unwilling to Namikaze Minato." Orochimaru was silent, his fists clenched. He is really unwilling. It is obvious that the position of Naruto is already within reach, but a Namikaze Minato is killed halfway. Relying on the weird and difficult to prevent flying thunder god, Namikaze Minato will soon be praised since childhood, whether it is strength or reputation. He was left behind as a genius. He also tried to learn Flying Thunder God in the past, but the reality proved that he did not have this talent. This incident was undoubtedly a huge blow to him, and then he began to abandon himself. He began to do human experiments, even children. "So, are you going to give up?" Chinhui looked at Orochimaru plainly. Orochimaru said coldly, "How is it possible, space ninjutsu, don't underestimate me." Having said that, Orochimaru squatted on his stomach and opened his mouth as much as possible. The array of 10,000 snakes. In the next instant, people numb all over. I saw that from Orochimaru's mouth, countless lion majesty was spit out, densely packed, making Chinhui a little scalp numb. Chinhui's face was ugly and said, "I took back what I just said. You are not a little disgusting, it is disgusting to the extreme." With that said, Chinhui jumped to the sky in an instant, and the seal of the left hand Jia Yin was placed on his mouth. Fire style is extinguished. Then a sea of fire spreading 100 meters, instantly invaded downwards. Orochimaru and Do's complexion changed suddenly. This is the first time they have met such a powerful fire style. They can't resist, they can only hide. But at this moment Orochimaru is enduring the operation stage, there is no time to avoid it. In desperation, Do had no choice but to escape far away alone. And the next moment I left, the sea of fire instantly covered this area. The extremely high temperature caused all objects in the entire area to burn. Naturally, those lion majesty could not escape, and they did not struggle in the sea of fire. It becomes a grilled snake. It even exudes bursts of meaty fragrance. Feel comfortable. Chinhui let out a sigh, and the uncomfortable feeling just now disappeared without a trace. Then Chinhui looked in the direction of Orochimaru. I saw there was no sign of Orochimaru, replaced by a large pile of humanoid black charcoal. Chinhui said lightly, "Come out. Don't pretend to be dead." As soon as this remark came out, that black charcoal suddenly moved. I saw the humanoid heighten slowly stand up, then it raised its head and opened its mouth, and a hand was actually extended from that mouth. Then there was another hand, Orochimaru's head, body. After a while, a complete Orochimaru appeared in front of Chunhui again. Do you want to continue? Chunhui looked at Orochimaru coldly. At this time, he was immune to Orochimaru's disgusting ninjutsu. Orochimaru looked at Chunhui with an ugly face, and snarled, "Boy, I'm the Langjun of the three ninja Orochimaru. Don't underestimate me." As he said, Orochimaru's body changed again. His exposed skin was instantly covered by white scales, and at the same time, his face changed into a pointed snake cone face. Secret technique Baki technique. A big bag bulged around Orochimaru's neck, and then 7 snake heads suddenly burst out of the big bag. Then, including Orochimaru's head, the snake's head began to grow bigger. And Orochimaru's body quickly grew longer, forming a snake body, and his legs forming a snake tail. This is Orochimaru's strongest ninjutsu summon Yaki Orochi. Little devil, see how powerful I am. With that, the 8-chi big snake summoned by the 8-chi technique began to walk towards Chunhui. Along the way, countless boulders and Takagi were crushed into powder by the Yachi Orochi. It has the strength comparable to the tail beast, but that's it. Chunhui shook his head and decided to let Orochimaru recognize reality. Then, Susanoo began to gather around Chunhui's body, and in a moment he reached the third form. At this time, the Yaki Orochi had also moved to Susanoo's front, with 8 snake heads. At the same time, the attack was launched. Susanoo drew out the sword and quickly cut off a snake head. The other 3 snake heads immediately attacked Susanoo, but they were blocked by Susanoo's left arm. Susanoo then waved the sword in his right hand again and cut down 3 more. 3 snake heads. However, at this time there are 3 more snake heads completely entangled Susanoo. At the same time, the middle snake head bit Susanoo, but Susanoo easily got rid of it. It was another swing of the sword, and 3 snake heads were cut off again. At this time, the 8-headed snake had only 1 head left, which was Orochimaru's head in the middle. Susanoo put the sword across Orochimaru's head. Chunhui said, "It depends on your choice now whether it is dead or alive." Orochimaru suddenly gritted his teeth, but a huge power gap was placed in front of him. He still said, "I give up." Wise choice. Chunhui curled his mouth, and then Susanoo punched Orochimaru on the head. Suddenly, the Yachi technique was broken open in an instant, and the Yachi Orochi quickly shrank. Soon, Orochimaru returned to its original shape. At the same time, the naked body was also exposed to the air. Seeing the momentum from a distance, he immediately stepped forward and slashed the coat on Orochimaru's body. At this time, Chunhui also contacted Susanoo and walked in front of Orochimaru. "It's over, it's up to you to fulfill your promise." Orochimaru wrapped his jacket tightly and slowly stood up with the support of his pocket. Orochimaru said faintly, "As expected of Sharingan, as expected of Uchiha. I was convinced by the defeat in this battle. So from now on, I will join your forces and let you drive them." "Oh," Chunhui raised his mouth, "I thought you, as a senior, were defeated in the hands of my junior. How much? Deny a few words. It seems that Senior Orochimaru is still very ethical, I don't need to use my backhand. Hehe, I still have a bit of credibility." Orochimaru chuckled dryly. "Ha ha." Chunhui laughed and said nothing. Now Chunhui has defeated Orochimaru with a crushing force, of course he will not. Or dare not deny it. If Chunhui only wins by a narrow margin, Orochimaru at this stage has no character at all. And if Chunhui cannot completely suppress Orochimaru in the future, he will have other ideas. So in the final analysis, it is still a question of strength. However, Chunhui has always had sufficient confidence in his own strength. Then, Chunhui stopped talking and turned to the nearest go in the direction of the town. "Then go to town and change clothes first, and then I will take you to meet an old friend." "Oh, my old friend." Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. While keeping up with Chunhui, his brain started to work quickly. Chunhui said that he was interested in him, and he was definitely not in his own strength. In addition to, the only worthy strength of this body is acceptable. That is, the research ability of the ninja world. And now in the ninja world, the only two who can be called his old friends are Jiraiya and Tsunade, who are both 3 ninjas. First of all, Jiraiya must be ruled out, because he will not follow Chenhui, who is Konoha's rebel, even if he is very dissatisfied with Konoha. Then Chenhui's old friend is only Tsunade, who hates Konoha's high levels. And Tsunade's medical ability is unique in the world of tolerance, and Chenhui is forgiven for conquering her. Thinking of this, Orochimaru couldn't help but said with emotion, I didn't expect Tsunade to join you. It seems that she has made up her mind to break with Konoha. You are very smart. Chenhui couldn't deny it with a smile, which was regarded as acquiescence to Orochimaru's guess. However, Tsunade is not completely broken with Konoha. The condition for her to join me is, let me not do anything to those ignorant villagers. Orochimaru couldn't help shook his head when he heard the words, and sighed, it seems she is still very naive. For Konoha, there is no innocent person to her Senju clan. Chenhui nodded slightly, and said faintly, you are, you can see it. After that, the scene suddenly became quiet, and only the sound of steps reverberated around. The 2 bigwigs did not speak, and the pockets that followed naturally did not dare to speak. After a long time, Orochimaru was the first to speak. He asked suspiciously, if I broke the contract just now, I show the spirit of not being afraid of pressure. I don't know how Mr. Chenhui's backhand made me bow my head. You want to know? Chenhui stopped. Orochimaru stopped when he saw this, I'm really interested. Chenhui turned around and looked at Orochimaru with a smile. He has turned on Sharingan at this time, and the 3 guis in his eyes are slowly rotating. Then let you see and see. With that said, the 3 God Jade in Chenhui's eyes instantly became Uzumaki-shaped Mangekyo. Then, Orochimaru instantly lost consciousness. In the spiritual world, Orochimaru opened his eyes. In front of him, Chenhui looked at him expressionlessly. Orochimaru felt a little, and then couldn't help but exclaimed, is this the unique pupil technique of Mangekyo? Sure enough, it was so powerful that even I was unaware of it. And no matter how I try, I can't get rid of this illusion. Mr. Chenhui, it seems that your current illusion technique has reached the top of the ninja world. Ah, after hearing Orochimaru's praise, Chenhui chuckled. You think this is my unique pupil technique in Mangekyo? Is not it? Orochimaru frowned suspiciously. Chenhui sneered, this is just the most basic illusion. I just added a little pupil power to make it more stable. Even so, the power is comparable to plus illusion. What? Orochimaru's pupils shrank when he heard this. Chenhui shook his head, and said, don't you notice that your soul is already incomplete now? Now even if it is a Jonin, as long as you are proficient in a more powerful illusion, you can be trapped to death. Although you can't completely defeat you, you can't deal with him either. Illusory, that's your biggest nemesis right now. Hearing this, Orochimaru's face suddenly showed a hint of horror. Now he has just begun to reincarnate into the technique. He did not expect this technique to have such a big flaw, and it would hurt his soul. Chenhui said lightly, I knowing that you are practicing the technique of rebirth, this technique can greatly increase your lifespan, which is really tempting. But it will also indirectly consume your soul, and when your soul is exhausted, you will die completely. So you better stop as soon as possible. As soon as these words came out, Orochimaru's face suddenly twisted together. He looked excited and asked, then my efforts over the years have been useless. Is there really no eternal life in this world? Chenhui looked at Orochimaru seriously and said, I can tell you very clearly. Have, and I also know how to get it. This world is too small, and your eyes are still too narrow. If you really want to live forever, then do well for me, and sooner or later I will let you embark on the road to eternal life. Chenhui's words are not flicking Orochimaru. After all, the Otsutsuki clan has an indirect method of immortality. However, the flaw is, every 1,000 years have to change a tool. The theory is similar to Orochimaru's reincarnation technique. Although this is not enough to satisfy Chenhui, it is enough to satisfy Orochimaru. As long as Orochimaru is obedient, Chenhui doesn't mind if he obtains this method in the future and teaches it to Orochimaru. After listening to Chenhui's promise, Orochimaru's heart suddenly struggled. He was indeed not prepared to surrender to Chenhui completely. As long as he had the opportunity in the future, he would not hesitate to betray Chenhui. But the temptation of the law of immortality was too great, which made Orochimaru's thoughts start to shake. But in the end, Orochimaru was still heavy. Nodded. Okay, I believe you. Chinhui's strength lies there, the strong all have their own pride, and the possibility of using this to deceive him is unlikely. And for the law of immortality, he is willing to bet. Papa. Chinhui clapped her hands and looked at Orochimaru with admiration. Very well, in the future you will know that this will be your wisest choice. Let's go out. With that said, Chinhui was ready to cancel this illusion. And many more. But at this moment Orochimaru suddenly reached out to stop him. Orochimaru looked at Chinhui seriously, and said, "You haven't told me what your backhand is." Chinhui smiled slightly, but looking at Orochimaru's serious eyes, he still said, "Distinguished heavenly gods. Have you heard of it? This technique can forcibly change your will. After the technique, you will never be able to get rid of this technique before your strength surpasses me by crushing. But I actually don't like this kind of compulsory control of people. But your talent is enough to make me break this principle." With that said, Chinhui praised Orochimaru indirectly. There was a smile on Orochimaru's face, and it was obvious that Chinhui's praise was very helpful. I see. After returning to the village with Orochimaru, Chinhui said that he was going to retreat for a year. Then Chinhui ignored Terumime's resentful eyes and left the country of water directly. Let him deal with the non-existent government affairs. Throw your hand at the shopkeeper. In the gloomy cave, Akatsuki's people gathered again. Absolutely, Orochimaru. Pain looked suspiciously at the vacant seat next to the black white Zetsu. Gia. White Zetsu smiled weirdly, and then continued, Orochimaru went to the land of water alone. Black Zetsu immediately added. He said he was very interested in the guy who killed Itachi and Loquat Juzo and wanted to catch it back and study it. Hearing that, before Pen had spoken, Sasori of the Red Sand smiled coldly. Hehe, it's really arrogant. A person who dared to dive into the country of water is probably already dead there. Sasori and Orochimaru didn't deal with each other, and it was no secret in the organization, so the other members were not surprised by Sasori's mocking words. When he was silent, the man, who was holding a weird sickle suddenly said carelessly, someone died just after joining the organization. It seems that this place is indeed very suitable for the development of my evil god cult. At the same time, another yellow-haired man's complaining voice sounded, isn't it, the official member died so soon. It seems that the strength of your organization is not very good. I suddenly regret joining it. Ha ha. Hearing this, Zhao, suddenly he sneered and said, obviously he surrendered after being defeated by us. How come to your mouth it becomes us begging you to join? The yellow-haired man suddenly became angry and said, that's just because you have too many people. If we have the ability, we will go out now. I will let you see my art. Zhao, they said without showing any weakness, okay. Do you think I am afraid of you? The yellow-haired man has something to say, but Pain can't help it. He suddenly shouted angrily, shut up. As soon as this statement came out, everyone closed their mouths at the same time. Pain's strength is recognized in the organization as invincible. Even if they go together, there is no full guarantee that they can compete with it. So when Pain spoke, everyone dare not keep talking. Pain scanned the crowd coldly, and then said, no matter. For what reason did you join? It's me who has the final say. Remember my rules, don't kill each other in the organization. The defiant, I will kill him myself. All of them were silent. Although Pain's words were very arrogant, Pain has strong capital. Seeing everyone's default, Pain looked slightly slower and said, Deidara, you just joined the organization, and later you will form one with Sasori. Team 1. Hidan, you and the Angle, both form a Team 1. Yes. The man with the sickle and the yellow-haired man responded immediately. Pain just got angry, they won't hit the gun. Seeing this, Pain turned his head to look at the black-white Zetsu, and said, now it seems that the country of water must be a great threat to us. Send all your avatars over and carefully investigate what happened there. If it doesn't work, I will do it myself. Also, it is estimated that now Orochimaru Jishao, you also pay more attention to a strong Renin in the genin world. There are still too few people organized now. Just leave it to me. Black-white Zetsu points. The current Shao organization, after Chenhui's influence, has fewer people than it was in the same period of the original book, and it is directly less powerful than the two powerful combat forces of Itachi and Kisame. Hidan and Kokaku, Du of the Undead Duo, Sasori and Deidara of the Art Duo, Pen and Conan of the God Combination, Black-White Zetsu alone, and Obito hiding in the dark. This is the full strength of Akatsuki now. In a dark yellow desert, a figure is slowly moving forward against the wind and sand. Just a few kilometers in front of him is Sunagakur, one of the 5 ninja villages. This person is Chenhui after leaving Kurigakure again. Chenhui frowned and murmured. The environment of the country of wind is really desolate to the extreme, no wonder it has been coveting the country of fire. As the frontier of the ninja world, the environment of the kingdom of wind and the kingdom of earth is extremely poor, and they are barely able to survive. They are the dead land that was sucked away by the gods in the ancient times, and the inside is the dead place. The richest country of fire. Therefore, for a better life, the two countries have been coveting the country on fire since ancient times. After experiencing the harsh environment of the country of wind, Sunagakur has also emerged. Chenhui stopped suffering and disappeared in the desert instantly. Strange, did a figure flash past there just now? On the wall of Sunagakur, a sand shinobi asked his companion next to him. The other person looked up and saw that there was only Huang Sensen's desert in the distance. He immediately said impatiently, "Don't make a fuss, it's a mirage." Oh, the person who asked the question now let go of his vigilance. Chenhui's figure appeared in a room instantly. "Who are you?" At this time, a scream sounded. Chenhui turned his head and took a look. He saw a child with short red hair with a love on his left forehead, looking at him vigilantly. "You are Gaara, right?" Chenhui directly ignored Gaara's hostility. "Just a child." "Hurry up, who are you?" Gaara did not let go of his vigilance because of Chenhui's gentleness. After his father sent for years of assassination and even sent his most trusted uncle, Gaara no longer believed in anyone. "Poor child, I'm here to rescue you." Quote. Chenhui immediately understood Gaara's emotions. He shook his head, and then instantly controlled Gaara with Mangekyo. This method of sealing one tail is probably the worst sealing technique in the entire ninja world. In Gaara's spiritual world, Chenhui frowned and looked at the extremely bad environment in front of him. "Boy, who are you?" At this moment, a sharp voice suddenly sounded. "As my home court, can't even one tails will be suppressed. No wonder you can't even sleep, this seal is extremely weak." Chenhui sighed, and then the surrounding space began to change shape, and in a moment he appeared in the place where one tail was really sealed. "Boy, I feel an aura that makes me very annoying in your body." 9 tails. It must be that dead fox, yes. Asshole 9 tails Jinchuriki, let that dead fox come out and meet me. As soon as Chenhui appeared, one tail yelled at him. Because this time it was a spiritual entry, Chenhui's breath could not be completely concealed. As the strongest 9 tails among the tail beasts, this breath was immediately caught by one tail. Chenhui sneered, "Obviously it is the weakest existence among the tail beasts. Who gave you the courage so arrogant?" After listening to Chenhui's contempt, one tail suddenly screamed angrily, "Boy, this uncle is not the weakest tail beast. The strength of tail beasts is not divided by the tail. Ridiculous." Chenhui shook his head, really too lazy to continue talking nonsense with this guy. Then Chenhui immediately used Mangekyo, and the sharp voice of one tail disappeared instantly, which immediately liberated Chenhui's ears. "Since you are so arrogant, then cut off half of your origin." With that said, Chenhui's heart moved, and suddenly he began to frantically devour the origin of one tail. Only a moment later, one tail's body size shrank by half. Then, Chenhui released one tail's control. The moment one tail woke up, it sensed its own weakness, and it immediately glared at Chenhui. "You fool, be more obedient, your Jinchuriki is not bad." Chenhui simply said and left Gaara's spiritual world in an instant. He is not going to take one tail away. Right now he is going to retreat for a year, but it's not time to cause trouble. Besides, he doesn't want to reduce the burden on Konoha now. After absorbing the origin of one tail, Chenhui went to the last destination, the land of Earth. Because the last 4 tails and 5 tails of the 9-tailed beasts are both Jinchuriki of Iwagakure, the land of Earth. But Chenhui did not go directly. Iwagakure, instead, walked towards the border between the country of soil and the country of fire. At this time, Iwagakure was preparing to attack Konoha. Therefore, most of rock shinobi, including Onoki and the two Jinchuriki, are hoarding on the border. And in order to prevent Konoha from having any hidden strength, Iwagakure has already started a tentative attack at this time. Including Sunagakure, who has just left Shinhui. At this time, the hoarding of troops has been completed. And now Konoha, even with the support of the major families, can only be enough to gather a support team of 2,500 people. These people will not be able to join any battlefield. What a decisive effect! Not to mention that it has opened up 2 battlefields now. And the roots of Danzo on the other side, at least. It will take a month to completely solve Takanen village. So this Konoha has reached the moment of life and death. Shinhui murmured. I hope that fellow Onoki can be acquainted. Otherwise, it will help Konoha weaken Iwagakure indirectly. It would be very uncomfortable for me. If you don't care about Sage of Six Paths, the old yin hidden in the dark, Shinhui really wants to sweep the ninja world now. There is still up to a year. While thinking about it, Iwagakure's station is near. At the same time, Rock Shinobi, who is in charge of vigilance, also spotted Shinhui walking slowly. We tentatively attacked for 4 or 5 days, Konoha nothing happens. They are on the border here. It seems that there are indeed only about 1,000 people arranged. It seems that Konoha has really reached the point of exhaustion this time. Inside the big tent, Onoki and a group of Iwagakure executives are discussing the battle. After groaning for a while, Oyemu said, nevertheless, we should be careful. Try for a few more days. What else to test? A grumpy voice interrupted Oyemu. I saw the person speaking with red hair, even the beard all over his face was red, and he was wearing a purple coat. This person is Four Tails Jinchuriki Laozi. Laozi yelled grumpily, isn't all the information in front of you? Cloud Shinobi Village dragged 5,000 Konoha people over 5,000, and Taki Shinobi Village also dragged 1,000 people, and Sunagakure border also has 1,000 people arranged by Konoha. Adding to the 1,000 people on our side, the remaining forces inside Konoha will be 2,000 to 3,000 to death. This time we brought 5,000 troops, plus the existence of our 3 shadow ranks. Under the pressure of the army, Konoha's defense line can be defeated in a month or 2. What are you still hesitating? Dayemu suddenly shouted, Old Z, don't show me your temper here. You don't know the current situation in our village. These 5,000 troops are already our ultimate. We can't afford to spend 2 months at all. If we go to war with Konoha in an all-round way, once Konoha turns around on other battlefields, we will have no reinforcements. What shall we do then? Now we have to grind slowly and wait for the wind to attack. At that time, it will be the wisest thing for us to attack together. Laozi snorted coldly, HMPH, I think you are getting older and older, but your courage is getting smaller and younger. If you are so timid and afraid of things, you can withdraw your troops directly. It's not safer. Dayemu was stared at by Laoziki's blowing beard, and his trembling hands kept pointing at Laozi. Laozi also stared at Dayemu unwillingly. The 5 Tails Jinchuriki Han on the other side sighed helplessly. He was used to this scene a long time ago. At this moment, a rock shinobi suddenly broke in. He yelled anxiously, Master Tsuchikage, someone came to our camp and asked you to go out and see him by name. I'll go out to see him. Onoki cast an angry gaze at the rock shinobi. I'm Tsuchikage. It doesn't matter. Who is that person? Let him roll in and see me. But, rock shinobi hesitated. Oyemu roared, but why don't you do it? That, rock shinobi cried and said, we can't help him, and Miss Black, You should go out and see by yourself. What's wrong with the black soil? Anamu suddenly blew his beard and stared again. Han hurriedly said, Tsuchikage-sama, let's go out and have a look anyway. Onoki's anger eased a little, and after thinking for a while, he said, let's take a look. As he said, he launched ninjutsu and turned around and floated outwards. Although Laozi from the rear also followed, she said strangely, Dangtang Tsuchikage is here. I was forced to meet a person of unknown origin in my own territory. You really are getting better and better. Free up your position and give it to others. Han, who was on the side, glared at him, then growled, don't say a few words. Only then did Laozi no longer speak angrily. At the gate of the big camp at this time, hundreds of rock shinobi were watching the outside scene nervously. I saw Chenhui standing more than 10 meters outside the camp gate, holding the arm of a struggling girl with short hair. And in the circle around him, there are more than a dozen Iwagakure Jonin who have been unconscious. Boy, I haven't said why I am here, as for when I come up and besiege me with someone. Chenhui looked at the black soil in his hands jokingly. He recognized the identity of the black soil the moment he saw it. You are the kid. The black earth struggled fiercely. Let go of me, my grandpa is third Tsuchikage. Chenhui raised his mouth. Oh, it's time to move rescue soldiers. This is not in line with your arrogant arrogance just now, shouldn't you rather die than surrender? Heitu did not answer, but struggled more fiercely. Asshole, let me go. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't get rid of the big hand that grabbed her arm. And don't know what happened, she can't even condense chakra now, so she can't struggle anymore. Be quiet, wait for your grandpa to come over. Just let you go. Heitu's age is 1 or 2 years older than Naruto, and now he is only 11 years old, so Chenhui will not really treat her. Who are you? Heitu turned his head and stared at Chenhui. Me, Chenhui joked. Uchiha Chenhui, have you ever heard of it? Chenhui originally thought that when he heard his name, he would either look dumbfounded or scared. Even though he heard his name, he was instantly full of little stars looking at him. You really are Uchiha Chenhui? Quote. Chenhui was a little confused, but still nodded, yes. With Chenhui's confirmation, Heitu's eyes suddenly became brighter. She asked excitedly, then you really blew up Konoha all by yourself. Also, they said that you overturned several Naruto-level opponents alone, isn't it true? And there is, you really have Mangekyo Sharingan, can you show me? There's more. Heitu's mouth was constantly chattering like a cannon, and he didn't even continue to struggle anymore. Since receiving the news that Chenhui destroyed Konoha and defected with his family 2 years ago, Heitu has begun to study this, which is not much bigger than himself. People of the same age. In addition, Onogi will tell her from time to time some of the secrets of the early construction of Shinobu Village decades ago. Among them, the key emotion is Uchiha Madara, and his Mangekyo Sharingan. This also makes Heitu full of curiosity about Chenhui's peers. So she was so excited after knowing Chenhui's identity. Even though this is the shinobi world, Heitu is only a little girl after all, and she lived in a peaceful age before that. That's why she has forgotten that she is in danger now. Fortunately, Chenhui is not prepared to treat her as a child. I said, don't you know what fear is? Chenhui said helplessly, looking at the black soil in his hands. Can't this guy tell the situation? She is just a prisoner now. However, at this moment, an angry shout suddenly came from the gate of the camp. Who are you? Let go of my granddaughter. Chenhui turned his head and looked, only to see a short old man with a red rosacea, looking at him angrily. Behind the old man are 2 people of different colors. One of them was a red-haired man in a purple shirt with a displeased face, and the other was a strict man wearing a hat and wrapping himself. Chenhui narrowed his eyes when he saw this, and murmured, Dayemu, Laozi, Han. Everyone is here. At this time, Heitu turned his head excitedly and shouted to Onoki, Grandpa, Grandpa. He is the Uchiha Chenhui you've been thinking of. Uchiha Chenhui. Onamu's pupils suddenly shrank, and he subconsciously assumed a fighting pose. And the old Z and Han behind him were also ready to fight in an instant. Uchiha Chenhui's deeds have been the most popular in the ninja world over the years. No matter whether it is among them or not with exaggerated elements, Chenhui's strength cannot be underestimated. After all, this is an existence that has blown up Konoha, but can still take the tribe to leave safely, so that Konoha will not dare to send people to chase him. The acting is good, I almost lied to it. Chenhui took a deep look at the black soil. This little girl's scheming is very strong. She obeyed him on the surface and sold cuteness to survive. After Oyemu arrived, she immediately revealed his true identity without a trace. This operation made him have been just now. He who didn't pay much attention to the black soil, he was unconsciously hit. It's just, how did she hide my emotional perception? Chenhui is a little puzzled. Can the black soil hide her emotions? If the black soil knew what Chenhui was thinking at this time, she would have been wronged. The moment she knew Chenhui's identity, those emotions were all really. Just when I revealed Chenhui's identity to Onoki, I played a snack machine. The others are not as complicated as Chenhui thought. On the opposite side, Oyeki calmed down and said in a deep voice, Uchiha Chenhui, we Iwagakure and you, but there is no grudge. You are now hurting the ninja in my village and taking away my granddaughter. Do you want to be my enemy, Iwagakure? Chenhui shrugged and said lazily, you can't talk nonsense. I went to this station and said I was looking for you, but your granddaughter came to besiege me without saying anything. I'm innocent, okay. Furthermore, I have been merciful enough. Otherwise you have to collect the corpses for these little shrimps. Chenhui's words in front of him also made Onoki a little embarrassed. After all, this is indeed the recklessness of the black soil. But the following 2 sentences made him look pale in an instant. Besides, the dozen people are all Jonin of Iwagakure, like a card character. Chenhui can't look down on them, isn't it, at Iwagakure? At this time, the old Z behind Oyeki couldn't help it. Although he didn't deal with Oyeki, he said that they were all Tsuchikage of Iwagakure, so you can't just be trampled on. On your head, he scolded angrily. Boy, just be angry. This is our place, dare you to look down on Iwagakure, our 5,000 rock shinobi is not vegetarian. Oh, 5,000 shrimp soldiers and crabs. Chenhui curled his lips in disdain. The ridiculous threat of the number of people. The number of people at his level is nothing more than slashing twice when killing. Laozi wanted to scold him, but Oyemu waved him off. Okay, stop talking about the extra nonsense. That's it. Quote, Uchiha Chenhui, we have long heard of your fierce power in the ninja world. Let's talk about it. What is your purpose here? Chenhui nodded, and said, Tsuchikage is quick to talk, so I won't go around in circles. I'm here this time to discuss something with Tsuchikage. Although there have been some misunderstandings, it does not hurt. With that said, Chenhui released his hand and sent the black soil forward. He has no hatred with Iwagakure, and it is deeper that he took the initiative to invade this time. So Chenhui is not going to make a threat with a child. And there is no need to do so. Black soil turned his head and glanced at Chenhui, and then quickly turned towards Onoki ran. After Onogi protects the black soil behind him, the complexions of rock shinobi when they look at Chenhui are slightly softened. Although it is not possible to completely let go of his vigilance, the atmosphere is not as tense as it was just now. Onoki asked, what are you going to discuss? During the interrogation, his mind began to liven up. He secretly thought, the current situation, does Uchiha see Konoha in a precarious situation and wants to help us? If this is the case, with the help of Uchiha who knows Konoha's intelligence, we can directly attack Konoha. Thinking of this, Onoki's eyes when looking at Chenhui suddenly became more relaxed. And Chenhui, who was opposite Oyeki, instantly sensed the change in Onoki's mood. After a little thought, he roughly guessed Onogi's thoughts. Chenhui couldn't help but shook his head, and then bluntly said, I need some origins of 4 tails and 5 tails, so. What? Before Dayemu spoke, Laozi interrupted Chenhui again angrily. He roared, so you are the tail beast coveting my body. Asshole, do you really think you are invincible in the world? When Laozi became famous in the ninja world, you were still breastfeeding. Chenhui looked at Laozi faintly, and a flash of killing intent flashed in his eyes. He said coldly, you may not know what your violent temper will bring to Iwagakure. Trash like you, I can pinch to death with one hand. But before again, you should be quiet. As he said, Chenhui's eyes widened, and Laozi instantly fell into a deep illusion world. Laozi. Hanton on the side was shocked. He quickly began to relieve Laozi, illusion, but no matter how he operated, Laozi still fainted and did not respond. Chenhui coldly said, give up, Mangekyo fully released the illusion. It can't be cracked. This illusion will consume his soul. It only takes 2 hours at most to completely wipe his soul away. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere was suddenly struck out again, and got up. You fool, quickly unlock Laozi's illusion. Yes, I dare to provoke us Iwagakure alone, we are not as bully as Konoha. No more, untie, I will kill you Uchiha clan. Several rock shinobi Jonin who had a good relationship with Laozi immediately came forward and scolded Chenhui. But Chenhui only glanced at them, and they all stepped into Lao Zi's footsteps. A person with a poor soul was killed instantly. Onoki was no longer silent at this time. He roared, "This is your attitude. Are you here to provoke us this time and want to be my enemy Iwagakure?" Chenhui shrugged and said, "Yes. I came here this time, to be a villain. So, you better not make me angry. I don't want to cause any killing this time. After all, if you destroy you, it is the Konoha group that will benefit in the end. By the way, a friendly reminder. I am now stronger than the Uchiha Madara you met at the beginning. So how to choose, Master Tsuchikage should be careful. Chenhui did not intimidate Onogi. He can indeed crush Uchiha Madara in front of Rinnegan in an all-round way." Onoki clenched his fist tightly. After Chenhui said this, he remembered the scene when he first met Uchiha Madara. He was only 13 years old at the time, and he followed second Tsuchikage without going to Konoha for an alliance. However, they were stopped at a temple outside Konoha village. The person who intercepted them was Uchiha Madara. It was too powerful. Just a face-to-face, he and nothing were easily crushed. Reluctantly relying on the will of the stone taught by the previous generations to stand up, but was directly killed by Madara with an illusion. For more than 10 years, that scene has been lingering in his mind. Now looking at Chenhui's expression, he seems to be back in the past. An inexplicable sense of powerlessness came to his heart. No, not right. Onoki shook his head and woke up instantly. He murmured, "He is not Uchiha Madara, and I am no longer the same, me. I'm Tsuchikage from Iwagakure. How can I bow my head just because of his words? The will of stone handed down to me by the ancestors, I can't just inexplicably ruin it." Gradually, Onoki's gaze towards Chenhui became more and more determined. What a pity. It seems that this ability is still a bit rusty. Chenhui sighed and shook his head. When Oyemu saw him, there was an inexplicable fear in his heart. Although it was very weak, Chenhui was still aware of it. He also roughly guessed that this fear should originate from Uchiha Madara. So he simply strengthened. With Oyemu's emotions, Oyemu yielded himself, and he could avoid doing it. But in the middle of raising this emotion, Oyemu suddenly broke free. He seemed to have let go of some burden, and that trace of fear completely disappeared. This also made Chenhui's plan only end in failure. Looking at Oyemu's nothing. With unafraid eyes, Chenhui murmured secretly, "In this way, I can't avoid doing it. It's rare to think about you once, why is it so stubborn?" "What a headache," Oyemu said firmly. "Chenhui, I don't care what your purpose is. 4 tails and 5 tails are the property of my Iwagakure, I will not give them to you. Besides, you just took the lead in dealing with my Iwagakure ninja. I must also ask for an explanation on this matter." Chenhui rubbed his forehead in distress. "After talking nonsense with you for so long, I still have to do it in the end." "Really are. It's because I'm too low-key. Isn't my reputation in the ninja world loud enough?" Chenhui shook his head, not thinking about these useless things. Then, his eyes when looking at Onoki and the others went cold instantly. Since he still needs to do something, then he won't be able to do it. 10 minutes. What? Onoki frowned slightly, and didn't understand Chenhui's meaning. Chenhui said coldly, 10 to solve you. With that said, the golden Susanoo instantly began to gather in Chenhui's body. Seeing this familiar scene, Onoki's pupils suddenly shrank. He hurriedly shouted, "Iwagakure's Chunin and Genin are back down, this is not a battle you can participate in. Quote. The rest, come with me." With that said, he directly attacked without saying a word. Chen Dun Yuan Realm Stripping Technique. Although Onoki does not think that Chenhui today can be comparable to Uchiha Madara. However, to be cautious, he still used his strongest attack when he got it. I saw Oyemu put his hands together, and a small white cone suddenly condensed between his hands. When the condensing was completed, he immediately aimed at Chenhui, the cone-shaped white light in his hand. In an instant, he prolonged away to Chenhui. Then the white light directly penetrated Susanoo, and even Chenhui in Susanoo was completely shrouded in white light. Great! A rock shinobi suddenly yelled with joy. This guy dares to despise the dust of Tsuchikage-sama. It is estimated that it has been directly decomposed into slag. The other rock shinobi also cheered immediately. Ono Muchin's power is the best in the ninja world. No one can take this trick. However, Onoki is not happy, because Susanoo outside the white light there was no sign of disappearance. In the eyes of a group of people, the white light gradually disappeared, and then the third form of Susanoo was fully revealed again. I saw Chunhui inside. There was no injury on her body. How is this possible? Rock Shinobi stared at this scene dumbfounded. This is Chendon. How could Chunhui, who insisted on this move, be alright? At this time, Chunhui slowly said, "Is this Chendon very good power? But it takes a long time to prepare, and the attack speed is not fast. But by relying on this technique, you can be called the ninja with the strongest offensive power at this stage." Oyemu looked at Chunhui solemnly, and secretly said, "This guy, it's really hard to deal with. Even Chen Dun can insist. It seems that what he said before is really not exaggerated." On the other side, Chunhui, who was calm on the surface, was actually surprised at the power of the dust. He was planning to use the third form of Susanoo to try hard, but after a moment of contact, Susanoo was broken. Then he was immediately like Obito. Like Kamui, he entered the portable space and escaped the blow. It seems that if you want to hold on to the dust of Onoki, you must be completely Susanoo. But if the two powers of chakra and Ten Tails chakra are both blessed at the same time, Suzuo in the third stage can also resist. Chunhui secretly estimated it, and suddenly got a bottom in his heart. He looked at Oyemu lightly, and said, "Your attack is over, then it's mine." As he said, Susanoo raised his right hand, and 3 Go Jade suddenly gathered in his hand. Yusaka no Go Jade. Quick. Defense. With a shout from Onoki in the sky, Rock Shinobi began to make defensive seals. Earth-style earth flow wall. Then, dozens of large or small soil walls rose from the ground and blocked Rock Shinobi's face. "Can you block it?" Chunhui sneered when he saw this. This was what he deliberately condensed, the strongest attack of Susanoo's third form. Then, the 3 Go Jade were connected together, and Susanoo instantly threw it out at Onoki and the others. Then, Guyu immediately slammed into the earth wall. Bang! The first earth wall was defeated in an instant. Then came the second, the third. Guyu was like a broken bamboo, and it defeated more than a dozen earth walls in a moment, and did not lose any power. Seeing the rest, the earth wall couldn't stop it, and Oyemu in the air suddenly shouted, "Lois! Use the geodynamic core." "Yes, Dad." The Lois below immediately understood Onoki's intentions. Then he slapped the ground, and the ground where Rock Shinobi was located suddenly began to sink. When Guyu defeated the last earth wall, he was able to hide in it. Then, Guyu fell into the camp behind and hit the ground instantly. Shattered the earth with a radius of 100 meters. "It's dangerous." Onoki in the sky breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, this blow did not fall in the middle of this group of Jonin, otherwise this group of people will not escape, and Iwagakure will not be able to slow down for more than 10 years. And the thousands of Iwagakure's middle genin who withdrew from both sides to watch the battle, see this I can't help but secretly rejoice. Fortunately, they didn't choose to stay in the camp, otherwise. Good combat consciousness, worthy of being an old antique who has experienced 3 wars in the ninja world. Chunhui couldn't help but exclaimed when he saw the beautiful conductor Oyemu. He also didn't expect this trick to solve all Rock Shinobi directly, otherwise Rock Shinobi would be too bad. However, Onoki's commanding ability at the moment of danger made Chunhui really look at him. But in the face of absolute strength, your experience is not enough. With that said, Chunhui began to walk towards the group of Rock Shinobi step by step. Onoki in the sky immediately reminded loudly, "Be careful, Chunhui has walked towards you." As soon as the Lois below heard, the geodynamic core was used again to raise the sunken land. Then he immediately pointed to Chunhui, who was approaching, and shouted, "Everyone, let him be kept in place to create a fighter plane." Jeishi. A group of Rock Shinobi immediately responded with high morale. However, in the face of Susanoo, who is more than 10 meters high, they gave up the idea of being close. Fortunately, most of Rock Shinobi are Earth-style ninjas, and this is the most suitable terrain for Earth-style, so the situation seems to be very beneficial to them. Then, Rock Shinobi patted the ground with both hands and controlled the land to launch an attack. Only Chunhui was seen. The earth and rocks under the feet, as if they had life, changed into various forms. The earth and rocks on the left and right sides of Susanoo suddenly turned into two earth dragons. These two pieces of earth, the dragon was directly wrapped around Susao's arms, and then began to pull downwards, trying to limit Susao's arms. At the same time, another even larger earth dragon rose up from the ground. It was completely wrapped around Susao. Then he started to tighten his body, and he wanted to directly crush the Suzole inside it. This set of operations was activated by the joint efforts of hundreds of rock shinobi Jonin and the joint control of the land. So rock shinobi are very confident in the power of this trick. Haha. Chenhui of Suzanne folded his arms and looked at the group indifferently. Rock shinobi's comical performance. Is it only this level? It's me. With that said, Susao's arms slammed, and he easily broke free of the two earth dragons. Then Susao shook his hands, and two golden sharp blades appeared in his hands immediately. Try this. Susanoo crossed the two sharp blades to his chest. After gaining momentum, he slammed in the direction of rock shinobi. In the next instant, a huge cross sword suddenly broke through the last giant earth dragon, facing rock shinobi shot away. Defense. Defend. Huang Tu shouted excitedly. However, rock shinobi just launched an explosive attack, and now the follower is weak, and there is no time to respond to the attacking sword. After all, they really can't think of it. They have gathered so many people and used their full strength to display the restraints. It breaks easily. Between them and Chenhui, there is no one dimension at all. Huang Tu couldn't help but curse secretly. He alone would have no effect at all in the face of this attack. Huang Tu couldn't help but fall into deep despair. Don't give up, this is just the beginning, we still have a chance. But at this moment, the angry Lois of the big wild wood in the sky. Lois looked up and saw that in front of them, a rock giant was forming. This is Gang Li technique. There was a flash of joy on Lois's face. Gang Li style technique is an earth-style ninjutsu developed by second Tsuchikage. There are two levels. One is to gather the earth attribute chakra in the throat and spit out a large amount of mud from the mouth. Rock monster. This move is just as strong as it can be. Although Lois can do it, it won't work at all in this kind of battle. The other is to control the ground through the method of not printing to create a giant rock monster comparable to a tail beast. The rock giant released in this way has increased defense and strength by several levels, which can be called Iwagaker's most powerful ninja shu. And this trick is now Iwagaker, which Onogi can use. Great, with this trick, maybe you can block this attack. Under Huang Tu's look of expectation, the sword chi slammed into the rock giant's body. Drink. Onoki fell on the head of the rock giant, and tried his best to control the rock giant to block it. You must block it. Oyemu once again sent a huge amount of chakra to the rock giant. Chenhui has just used it, and there is still a period of cooling off, so he can only put hope on the rock giant. However, in order to guard against his dust escape, Susanoo was blessed with chakra. Can it be blocked by the power of Onoki alone? The next moment, with a broken sound, the sword energy directly smashed the arms of the rock giant, and then cut its chest, yes, shooting from the rear again. However, the rock giant still played the role of Sasori, making the scale of the sword aura much smaller, and it also slightly deviated from the trajectory of the sword aura. Therefore, in the end, the sword energy only wiped out more than half of the rear area. But despite this, more than 2/3 of rock shinobi was still affected by the aftermath and buried in the collapsed soil and rock. Including most of it in particular, Jonin included more than 400 people from rock shinobi who besieged Chenhui this time. This is now the last elite of Iwagaker, accounting for 70% of Iwagaker's total combat power. However, under Chenhui's attack, even those the rock shinobi affected will not all die, but at least, will also lose half. Onogi watched this scene heartily. But it's all Iwagaker's hope. He couldn't help cursing secretly. In front of him, the number of people won't work at all. At this time, the Yellow Earth, the Red Earth, the Han, and a few of Iwagaker's top combat power also jumped on the rock giant that was slowly recovering. I'm sorry, blame me. My command was too reckless just now. Huang Tu lowered his head in shame, not daring to look directly at Oyemu. Oyemu shook his head, and said solemnly, your command is okay, Chenhui is too strong. It's so strong that it's completely beyond our cognition. Then what shall we do now? Han asked from the side. Then there was a hint of hesitation on his face, but he continued, if it doesn't work, just hand me over to Lao Zi, now Iwagakure can't. No way. Before Han finished speaking, Oyemu also severely interrupted him. Oyemu sternly said, you are all part of Iwagakure. Iwagakure will never give up his villagers because of persecution. Chenhui's strength is indeed terrible. I can't guarantee anything in front of him, but I can promise. When he gets you, it must be after I died in battle. Onoki. Han looked at Oyemu moved. As Jinchuriki, they have a bad reputation in the village. Although it is not as dark as Konoha, it is still outside the crowd. Han couldn't help but secretly said in his heart, Lao Zi, if you hear these words, you will definitely be touched. Then, he looked at Oyemu's eyes, and suddenly, he became more determined. Then we will work together to defeat this guy. Huang Tu and others also said in unison, yes, work together to defeat Chenhui. Jie Shi. Onoki looked at Huang Tu and the others with satisfaction. They are Iwagakure's future. Come here with your ears, I will tell you the tactics. In the distance, Chenhui looked up indifferently at the group of people whispering. You haven't given up yet, do you want to fight back to death? In that case, let you despair completely. After a while, the rock giant suddenly began to collapse. Onoki and others retreated to the only remaining rock shinobi crowd. And Han jumped in front of Chenhui alone. Chenhui could feel the fearlessness in his heart, and confidence. He couldn't help laughing. Hee, your plan is over. This kind of self-confidence. It seems that you are absolutely sure to destroy me. Chenhui didn't find out what their plan was. After all, this is fun, isn't it? Don't underestimate our Iwagakure. The Han roared, and the dark red-tailed beast chakra instantly wrapped him. Steam armor. Boyle style is unparalleled. Then, the thick white mist instantly enveloped him. Under the blessing of the three states, Han's speed and strength were greatly improved. He came to Chenhui almost instantly, and then hit Shuzuo with a punch. Hey, waste time. Chenhui shook his head. In the next instant, Han's fist hit Suzuo. But Susanoo, who has blessed chakra, can be broken by people of the Han level. Moreover, even if the recoil of the counterattack is doubled, Han does not necessarily endure. Come on. Sure enough. Han snorted, only feeling a sharp pain from his fist. Even with the blessing of the tail beast chakra, the arm he attacked was still injured by the violent recoil. Go away. Susanoo waved his arm and knocked Han away with a single punch. After flying upside down for more than 10 meters, Han slammed into a huge rock, smashing the entire rock completely. Then, he was buried in the whole body. In the gravel. Taking this opportunity, Chenhui turned to look at Oyemu and others on the other side. At this time, they were preparing in full swing, and they seemed to be launching a big move. After seeing Chenhui turning his head to look at them, Onomu immediately stared at Chenhui nervously. It seems that as long as Chenhui changes, he will do it next moment. At this time, Han also staggered out of the pile of rubble. Seeing this, Chenhui retracted his gaze looking at Oyemu and looked at Han again. He said indifferently, it seems Oyemu wants to use you to hold me alone, and then prepare what big tricks. Chenhui is not going to interrupt Onogi. At this stage, there is no existence that can match him in the ninja world. Let alone Iwagakure, Chenhui doesn't think they will hide any amazing abilities that can break Susao's defense. You know, Susanoo has only started the third stage now, and Chenhui hasn't even used half of his strength. Asshole! Han shouted angrily, and his body changed again. In a moment, he summoned the Five Tails deity. Then, without saying a word, he began to condense Tailed Beast Bomb. Old-fashioned tricks. Chenhui curled his mouth in disdain. He had seen too many of these things during this time. Then he and Susanoo appeared beside Five Tails instantly. At this time, Susanoo also instantly evolved to the fourth form, with 2 legs. In the next moment, Susanoo punched Five Tails on the head. The tailed beast bomb that hadn't been condensed also disappeared instantly. Oh! Five Tails cried out in pain, and then collapsed to the ground. But it still didn't give up, and wanted to struggle to get up. Just then, Susanoo slapped Five Tails' head with a palm. Then, Five Tails felt that the head received a huge suction. Under this suction, its origin, chakra, began to uncontrollably condense toward the head. Although Chinhui wanted to see Onogi's plan, he was not going to waste this time. So he directly controls Suzuo to enter the fourth state and start the recovery of Five Tails' origin. Oh! The constant flow of the origin made Han and the Five Tails in his body scream at the same time. At the same time, the body of Five Tails began to shrink rapidly. Chinhui said faintly, "Don't worry, I also want to see Oyemu want to play what a trick. So I won't interrupt them. But the power of Five Tails, I will take it back first." Onoki in the distance also saw the depression of Five Tails, but this side had reached the final moment, and he could not support it. He could only curse, and then turned his head to look at the other rock shinobi. "Are you all ready?" "All right," a group of rock shinobi replied out of breath. Onoki was overjoyed. "Jexi, let this guy see the strength of our Iwagakure unity." "Who? Get it done." Chinhui let out a sigh, and the corners of his mouth raised slightly. At this moment, he has swallowed the origin of Five Tails. After losing the origin, Han has recovered his body, lying on the ground and lost consciousness. Next is the last Four Tails, that's it. At this time, the ground under his feet shook violently. Chinhui immediately turned his head and looked in the direction of Onoki and others. There, a powerful chakra was constantly fluctuating. As for the Han at his feet, after losing value, Chinhui stopped looking. He glanced at it. This fellow Oyemu, it seems that living a long time will benefit him a lot. Chinhui looked at the scene in the distance in amazement. I saw hundreds of meters away from him, a huge rock was slowly rising. Look at the scale of the rock, enough to cover an area of several kilometers. Using earth style to condense a hard boulder, then use theolite and heavy rock technique to float it in the air. Chinhui broke Oyemu's plan. Then he grinned suddenly, and said, "Then next, is, using the heavy rock technique, to let the boulder fall towards me. Use the advantage of the number of people to artificially create meteorite effects." I have to say, your strategy really exceeded my expectations. This scene reminded Chinhui of the scene where Uchiha Madara used Tengai Shinsei to destroy the Ninja Alliance in the original book. But if you want to use this trick against me, you are still not good enough. Chinhui shook his head, and then murmured, "I will let you see what is the real power of God." With that said, Susanoo in the fourth form suddenly changed again. Susuo's body shape began to rise, reaching a height of more than 100 meters in a moment. Then, the heavy armor wrapped Susanoo, and a breathtaking aura suddenly enveloped the whole body. Field, and this one. Chinhui grinned, and the Shanshu chakra instantly poured into Susanoo. Then Suzuo's body size suddenly expanded again. Next, it was Ten Tails chakra. This time, Chinhui had already determined to use full firepower, so as to help Shinobu. The world shows his strength. The next year, you will live in fear. After 2 blessings, Susanoo's body shape has doubled again, and he has reached a giant of nearly 300 meters. At this time, Onoki and others also controlled the boulder and came to the sky above Susanoo. The boulder still floats upwards again. When it was only the size of a fist, the boulder finally stopped. Then, Onoki and others worked together and shouted angrily, "Earth-style super aggravated rock technique." Suddenly, the boulder began to fall rapidly. The sound of breaking through the air instantly swept the surrounding countries. Even in the country of fire, you can see the scene of the boulder landing. However, Chinhui, directly under the meteorite, did not have the slightest face on his face. Fear, but full of excitement. In the next instant, the boulder fell to the ground, completely covering Susanoo's figure. Then, there was a violent shaking that immediately made the entire ninja world tremble. The vibration caused by the fall of the boulder made the small ninja world completely boil. In Konoha village, it was also affected by the vibration. What happened? Sarutobi Hiruzen jerked up from his seat. The violent shaking just now made his mind tense. In this situation, Konoha may become the past at any time. So Sarutobi Hiruzen also unknowingly became a frightened bird. We will investigate now. An Anbu appeared in an instant, and then disappeared in an instant. 10 minutes later, that Anbu appeared in front of Sarutobi Hiruzen again. He handed a scroll to Sarutobi Hiruzen, and at the same time said, "This is the news from Master Danzo using the technique of reverse summoning. Danzo's Takino Kuni battlefield is close to the border of Rock Shinobi, so he saw the meteorite come with his own eyes. Then he immediately relayed the news. Sarutobi Hiruzen immediately took the scroll and couldn't wait to check it out. However, shortly afterwards, he slapped the scroll heavily on the table. Iwagakure has developed such a secret technique. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes were full of shock. Danzo said in the scroll, at the border of Iwagakure, a huge boulder floated into the air inexplicably. Since it can be seen in Taki no country, Danzo speculates that the scale of this boulder is at least for a few miles. When the boulder floated to the size of a fist, it suddenly began to fall quickly. After landing, the huge roar can be heard in Taki no Kuni. And the vibration produced can even be heard. Let some houses in Taki no Kuni collapse. Onogi, at this stage, release this scale of ninjutsu. Does he want to be majestic in front of Konoha? Sarutobi Hiruzen collapsed tiredly on the seat. With a ninjutsu of this scale, even if Konoha gathers all the army, he will be as weak as an ant in front of him. If Minato was there. Sarutobi Hiruzen started to miss Namikaze Minato. If he was there, even this kind of ninjutsu would definitely have a way to deal with it. That, Anbu had already left after handing him the scroll. So he didn't worry that doing so would compromise his majesty. No. After a moment of contemplation, Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly woke up. In the face of such ninjutsu, the country of the earth will definitely be affected. It's impossible for Onoki to let the land of the earth suffer such unnecessary losses in order to establish his prestige. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes kept flashing. Then there is only one possibility. They are facing the enemy. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but murmured, what kind of enemy is that would let Onoki perform this kind of ninjutsu of death? Sarutobi Hiruzen began to think, but gradually, Chinhui's figure suddenly appeared in his mind. No, it's definitely not him. But in just over a year, it may become so strong. Sarutobi Hiruzen shook his head frantically, trying to throw Chinhui's figure out. But in his heart, he still buried his worries and the world of shinobi. They have not received any news for the time being. Other countries were shocked by this incident. They began to be full of fear of Iwagakure. But Onoki and others would not be proud of it. They could only watch desperately getting closer and closer to them at this time. Unharmed Susanoo. After applying the aggravated rock technique to the boulder, Onoki immediately controlled a piece of earth and rock, relying on it and others to slowly fall to the ground. Iwagakure can only fly with the light and heavy rock technique, only Oyemu. But he does not have enough chakra to allow so many people to float at the same time. So he can only choose this compromise method to land. This trick will definitely solve that guy. A rock shinobi gasped and said that for this move, he almost consumed chakra. After he reminded him, the others couldn't take a break immediately. They all slumped on the edge of the stone and began to visit the scene below. I saw that the boulder had fallen by half at this time, and Susanoo on the ground had no intention of avoiding it. A few kilometers away from Zuo's, Genin of Rock Shinobi is madly evacuating. Although the weighted rock technique cannot increase the speed of the boulder's descent, it can increase the potential energy of the boulder and double its destructive power after it hits the ground. So when the rock shinobi cast this technique, they let those middle genin escape far away. Although it can't be said that they will be completely unaffected, but it is no problem to save their lives. This guy, is he confident that he can resist this blow head on? Looking at the golden spot below, a rock shinobi subconsciously swallowed and spit. Hee, it should be impossible. When the other rock shinobi heard this, he gave a dry laugh. Absolutely impossible, no one can survive this blow. Yes, dare to be so arrogant, he is dead. A crowd of rock shinobi began to use loud voices to cover their inner anxiety. Oyemu also frowned deeply. In his opinion, Chinhui is definitely not a conceited person. Then, he is true he thinks he can take the blow head on. This guy, what kind of monster is this? Chinhui looked up at the huge boulder that was getting closer and closer. Susanoo squeezed the sharp blade in his hand, Shanshu chakra, Ten Tails chakra, and Chinhui's own chakra kept pouring into the sword. This charged blow is the pinnacle blow of Chinhui at this stage. When the boulder is complete when Chinhui arrived, Chinhui's energy accumulation was completed at the same time. Then, Susanoo swung his sword violently and slammed into the boulder. In the next moment, a huge roar rang through the audience. The sound was so loud that it even spread to several surrounding people. Country. Then, under the dumbfounded gazes of rock shinobi above, the boulder began to break apart inch by inch. Chenhui's blow was extremely concentrated, so there would be no energy leakage at all. And this blow all the energy of is used to destroy the boulder. Therefore, the fragmentation of the boulder is extremely calm, until it is completely turned into dust by this energy. Suddenly, the dust spread within a few kilometers, turning this place into Huangsen, a piece of sen. From the perspective of the black soil and others hiding in the distance, it is. Susanoo taps lightly, and then the boulder completely collapses like a foam. If it were not for Susanoo's feet, it had sunk hundreds of meters and spread for several miles. Heitu even thought it was just an illusion. Chenhui, so powerful. At this time, Onoki and others also plummeted to the ground. Haha, the game is over. Chenhui indifferently looked at Rock Shinobi, who collapsed in front of him. Then Susanoo started walking towards Rock Shinobi step by step. Onoki wanted to get up and continue to resist, but he was already at the end of the crossbow, and he could only collapse to the ground again weakly. And Susanoo walked into the crowd, but did not make up the knife. I saw it. Susanoo grabbed the old Z who had been guarded by Rock Shinobi, and even the sky had fallen into a coma. What's the use of protecting him by your side to solve you? I can naturally catch him safely. Chenhui said faintly. I just wanted some origins, but since you are so uncooperative, coupled with this guy's stinky mouth, I will completely accept 4 tails. As for 5 tails, I will leave it to you to deal with Konoha. Don't let me down. However, at this moment, Chenhui suddenly noticed that 5 kilometers away from here, nearly 1,000 ninjas were sneakily approaching here. Looking at their forehead protector, they are the ninjas of Konoha. I do all this, it's not for you to pick up the bargain. Chenhui curled his mouth, and then waved his hand as a sword aura. In the next instant, the 1,000 Konoha shinobi also immediately followed in Rock Shinobi's footsteps. Then, Chenhui and Susanoo instantly disappeared in place. The next sentence. Fight against Konoha, in order to repay my retention of hands. In an endless desert, Chenhui is walking slowly. To say which place in the ninja world is the least easy to be disturbed, the great desert of the Kingdom of Wind must be at the top of the list. Especially in the depths of the desert, the one near the land of death, even Sunagakur is reluctant to approach it. The sacred tree swallowed vitality, a place where it is difficult for humans to survive, so after taking out the 4 tails from Laozi's body, Chenhui began to move there. Sleep for a year and perfectly blend with 10 tails chakra, and I can start my plan when I wake up. This is several years faster than I expected. While walking, Chenhui began to think about the deployment in a year's time. Okay. Suddenly, he stopped abruptly. What a powerful energy fluctuation. Chenhui narrowed his eyes, and then disappeared in the same place in an instant. In the next instant, he appeared in a ruin a few kilometers away. Scanned the surrounding landscape. After seeing the familiar seal formation on the ground, Chenhui suddenly. It turned out to be here, the ancient country of Lulan. At the moment, Chenhui felt an extremely large energy fluctuation. So he followed the perception and came here. And at his feet at this moment, is the ancient Lulan kingdom that was destroyed during the 3 wars, and it is also where the dragon veins are. Ground. Tisk tisk, the amount of this chakra is comparable to 9 tails. Chenhui looked at the center of the seal formation in amazement. He could feel the majestic chakra beneath it. This amount of chakra was even more than twice the sum of all the chakra in his body. But the amount of chakra shares is fixed, and it cannot be recovered after consumption. And the reason why 9 tails is considered to have endless chakra is because its chakra recovery speed is extremely fast. Chenhui is not familiar with this place, and there is no in the original book. Speaking in detail, he only knows the part of the plot of the original book, and even now with his arrival, the original book is not necessarily accurate. So he directly asked the system, do you know the origin of the dragon vein? Dragon veins were one of the branches of the sacred tree that swallowed the earth's vitality thousands of years ago. And it was the largest branch. After the Otsutsuki Kagaya was sealed and the sacred tree disappeared, all branches were abandoned, and the energy in the branches was also between the heavens and the earth that have all dissipated, because of the special terrain, This place is the node of this world, so it retains a part of the energy, which is called the dragon vein by Lulin's ancestors 100 years ago. These leftovers here now. Chakra is just a small part of the original offering to the sacred tree, so that's it. Chenhui nodded, but he soon continued to ask, what is that node? The most unstable place in this world now. Chenhui is completely clear, and the plot of the original works also makes sense. Because of the special terrain, some of the most primitive chakras are left here to support the nodes of this place. But it is precisely because of this that as long as the dragon vein runs away, the node will be briefly broken, so as to achieve the function of passing through time and space for a short time. Chenhui touched his chin and continued to ask, the chakra here is also a waste system. I can absorb it. Yes, but this place will also lose the ability to travel through time and space. If you lose it anyway. I want it. Chenhui shrugged and immediately prepared for action. Such a huge chakra, if it is combined with natural energy to absorb, his sage mode will definitely reach a higher level. Maybe it will not take long to reach the 6th level. Chenhui's complexion suddenly condensed. He slowly raised his head and looked towards the west. Vaguely, there was a figure walking slowly towards this side. What an amazing power! Twice in a row. It seems that I won the jackpot today. Chenhui's momentum began to condense, and he was ready to fight. In his perception, the person who came to this side was above him. In this period of time, how can the Hokage world appear? This level of existence. Chenhui immediately began to quickly recall the original work in his mind. Could it be? After thinking about it, the man stopped 20 or 30 meters away from Chenhui. Looking at the unique costume, the exclusive horn of the Otsutsuki clan, Chenhui suddenly affirmed the identity of the visitor. One style of Otsutsuki. No, he probably hasn't fully resurrected at this time. Chenhui frowned deeply. The Otsutsuki clan planted sacred trees throughout the universe to devour the vitality of the planet to improve themselves. When they act, they are two people in a group. And Otsutsuki is one style, that is, Otsutsuki Kagaya's teammate. Before Chenhui crossed, he had watched the latest blog post manga. Rubbish animation, but the comics are not bad, so he also knows the identity of this new character, but he only knows his identity. I don't know anything about his true strength. Chenhui only knows the complete 10 tails. Otsutsuki, as Kagaya's teammate, was severely injured by Kagaya's sudden attack when he first landed on Earth. When he was dying, he used his unique ability to parasitize the body of the passing monk Shion, and controlled Shion's consciousness and body. After thousands of years of healing and fusion, at the end of the 4 world wars, before the start of Bo Ren Zhuan, he created Thashel organization. Shortly before the start of the Bo Ren Zhuan plot, he successfully resurrected through Shion's body. But what happened many years later? The current one should be hiding somewhere to heal the wounds secretly. Could it be that my arrival caused some butterfly effect to bring him back to life in advance? Chenhui let out a sigh of relief. This is exciting. Yi Shi and Chenhui looked at each other. After a long time, I couldn't help but speak first. I felt a trace of Otsutsuki's blood in your body, and the power of the sacred tree. And extremely pure. It seems that after so many years, people in this place can already use chakra. Otsutsuki Kagaya. Ha ha. Chenhui sneered coldly. I didn't expect you to recover so quickly. But it doesn't matter, anyway. Sooner or later, you will be solved. If you come out by yourself now, it will save me a lot of trouble. Yi Shi looked at Chenhui expressionlessly. Kagaya told my future generations. The shame of the Otsutsuki clan has even assigned chakra to you, lower humans. But now that I have recovered, it is time to reclaim the power that belongs to my Otsutsuki. Cut. Chenhui curled his lips in disdain. Do you think you alone are qualified to say these things? With that said, Chenhui stretched out his right hand, and the spiral shuriken immediately condensed in his hand. And this is not an ordinary spiral shuriken. Chenhui is still there, it adds the power of celestial arts. Then Chenhui directly throws it at one formula. Although it has not recovered to its peak, it is enough to deal with you. With one hand up, an energy cannon was condensed in the palm of the hand, and it slammed into the spiral shuriken at a faster speed. After a while, the two forces collided in the middle of the two. Suddenly, violent energy swept across the square, a huge bunker was created between the two. This blow was equally divided between the two. But the tentative attack is over, and the next is the real battle. Note: the Otsutsuki clan merged. There is no surgery. The concept of they are usually crushed by the powerful energy in the body. Chinhui observed the one style, and his mind began to quickly analyze the information. He didn't know much. Except for the commonly used Byakugan, the blogger has only shown one ability in the one style. His right eye with a M-shaped pattern can shrink objects hundreds of times, including himself. Moreover, he still has a complete 10 tails, which is stored by him in an unknown alien space. I have to be careful too. If you can own a 10 tails by yourself, then Yishi must have a high status in the Otsutsuki clan. His right eye may be the same as clean eye, but it is also an unknown, higher level eye. And I don't know if he has Rinnegan. Chinhui has some headaches, and he still knows too little news. Although he doesn't know what level of the peak period of the one style is, but it is also a 6th level. After all, the one style that has not healed now is no less than the peak of the ninja world. Now, but that's okay, it's been a long time since I met such an opponent of the same level. Since the analysis can't tell you much, Chinhui simply won't analyze it. Why not enjoy the rare battle? I'm already excited. Chinhui grinned, and then instantly appeared behind Yishi, a sword slashed to his waist. However, Yishi reflected its height, and he also had Byakugan, 36 vision without blind spots. So the moment Chinhui appeared, he turned into a cyan stick and blocked Chinhui's surprise attack. Chinhui didn't feel much about it. The reaction of the 6 levels is quite terrifying. In the original 4 battles, Tobirama and Minato's Flying Thunder God were unable to play a positive role in front of the 6 Obito. This ability of teleportation can also be used in high-level battlefields. Bully the group of people who can't react. Chinhui glanced at it, and instantly analyzed the nature of the stick in his hand. The chakra, which is condensed into substance, contains the power of yin and yang. However, in the next moment, the front end of the stick suddenly bends, like a rope, hurriedly wrapped around Chinhui. You can change the shape at will. Chinhui narrowed his eyes and used Theshan Ellen again and appeared dozens of meters away. Turning his head to look at Chinhui, he said coldly, I didn't expect you to be able to use the power of space. Looks like your eyes are very good. Chinhui smiled playfully and said, Hehe, I am also very curious about your eyes. It's better to buckle it down and play with me. Yishi immediately sneered and said, Hehe, don't worry, I'll let you see and see. As he said, his right eye suddenly glared. Chinhui's complexion changed drastically at this instant. The space is blocked. In just an instant, Chinhui suddenly felt that his connection with the portable space became weak. At the same time, he also felt that God Pro was restricted by all kinds of limitations. Theogod Prone, that could have been instantaneous, now needs a few seconds of preparation time, and there must be a 1-minute time interval for each use. One of the abilities of the right eye, can block the space. Looking at Chinhui with a grinning smile, now, the space ability is completely useless. Chinhui said without showing any weakness, Hehe, even if it doesn't take a moment, his ability to defeat you is enough. However, he secretly calculated in his heart, my flower tube has absorbed the pupil power of 3 pairs of Mangekyo, which is much stronger than the normal eternal Mangekyo. However, because of the unhealed injury, Yishi has lost a lot of ability. Now Yishi thinks that I can't use the space power at all, so I can temporarily use God's presence as a means of surprise. Stop talking big. With a roar, then stretched out both hands at the same time, condensing an energy ball with a radius of nearly 10 meters. Go to hell. With that, the energy ball instantly attacked Chinhui. If you want to kill me, you are not qualified. Chinhui sneered. Susanoo instantly turned on the 3rd state. Then Susanoo swung his sword directly on the energy ball. Suddenly, the collision between the two caused countless abilities to leak out wildly, forming a vacuum in the desert hundreds of meters in radius. Realm. A small mushroom cloud made of yellow sand suddenly rises in the full yellow sand. And in the battlefield, the full sky of yellow sand obscures the situation in the field. Turn on Byakugan in an instant and start to explore the location of Chinhui. Sage Art Fire style is extinguished. At this moment, a sea of golden fire appeared instantly and swept towards the one style. Along the way, countless transparent crystals fell from the air. This is the sand that has been smelted into glass by the high temperature. However, it is such an attack. One style is just a stare at the right eye. The sea of fire spreading over 100 meters suddenly shrank, and it became the size of a fist in a moment. Then he swung the cyan stick in one stroke, and easily smashed the fireball away. Perceiving this scene, Chenhui couldn't help but frown deeply. One gesture can shrink himself. The huge Susanoo poses no threat to him. And he can even shrink with ninjutsu. It seems that he can only use physique. Susanoo began to dissipate, and then the 5-attribute chakra instantly wrapped Chenhui's body. And this time, Chenhui used the fairy technique chakra. In the next instant, he rushed towards the One Piece. One Piece had the Byakugan, so Chenhui didn't expect this. The yellow sand can block his vision. Jung. In the next instant, the sound of gold and iron sounded. Chenhui already swung his sword and collided with Yi Shi. Jung. Jung. Chenhui swung his sword and attacked quickly, and he resisted without showing any weakness. The sound of gold and iron fighting continued to sound. In the blink of an eye, Chenhui fought with Yi Shi dozens of times. During this time, Yi Shi also wanted to change the weapon into other forms of raids, but at Chenhui's at the speed of the phantom, it didn't happen at all. It works. Because of the frequent use of Shinellen, Chenhui's speed has already reached a terrifying level. Not to mention that there is still a blessing offsage art ninjutsu. After doing his best to resist dozens of moves, facing Chenhui's slashing slashes one after another, he still didn't fully defend himself. Chenhui swept across, leaving a deep bone sword mark on his chest. Ha! He screamed, and then quickly shrank himself, avoiding Chenhui's combo. However, after shrinking, he was kicked out by Chenhui. Chenhui looked at the distance with a mocking look and recovered his figure, and stood up again. A formula. Hehe, I think your mouth is very hard, but your strength is not very good. He glared at Chenhui, feeling that his dignity as the Otsutsuki clan was provoked. Cut, you are just an inferior human being, what qualifications do you have? What? Before the words were finished, a sudden sword pierced the heart from behind. How is it possible? How can you still use teleport? Turning his head to look at Chenhui in disbelief. Chenhui curled his lips and sneered, Hehe, you really have a lot of restrictions on my spatial ability. But completely blocked my space ability, now you are not qualified. This is a common problem of your Otsutsuki clan. You are too proud and too complacent. Provoked a type of emotion, made him lose his mind, no longer pay attention to the whole body, and then use Theogod Pro to surprise. This is Chenhui's strategy. The result. One hit will kill. You fool. Turning his head and glaring at Chenhui, he was deceived so badly this time. Chenhui said coldly, don't look at me with this kind of eyes, blame you if you want to blame, Otsutsuki is too proud and complacent. By the way, I'm here, and the supremacy of Otsutsuki should end. After that, Chenhui pulled the sword full of chakra, almost directly splitting one style in half. But even so, the two halves of one style are barely connected by the left shoulder. In addition, the heart is already broken. If it is an ordinary person, I am afraid it is already cold now. But Chenhui knows that the tenacious vitality of the Otsutsuki clan allows them to live on in a boarding way. And after the time has passed, they will be able to resurrect in the future. The one style thousands of years ago was to rely on this method to survive. But now this is a desert, and within tens of kilometers Chenhui perceives, there is no third person. Chenhui coldly looked at the vacant form of life lying on the ground. Within a radius of several thousand meters, there is no one who can let you stay in. Now, you should be completely dead. Asshole, asshole. Lie down on the ground, struggling to raise his head and look at Chenhui. I am the noble Otsutsuki clan, how could I be defeated by your natives? Chenhui sneered at it and said, Hehe, you will not only die in the hands of my indigenous, but you will also be studied by my researchers after you die. I am very curious about your Otsutsuki secret. As he said, Chenhui raised his sword at Yi Shi without hesitation. Then he threw it sharply, and the sword immediately thrust into Yi Shi's head. Bah! The sword was stuck in the sand, shrinking oneself again and avoiding the blow again. Will you continue to struggle? Chenhui looked down like a gravel. However, although he is full of self-confidence on the surface, he has always been prepared for a dying counterattack. For this kind of poorly understood opponent, maybe he can die with him at the last minute. So Chenhui is still very cautious, he didn't even approach the knife easily. Not to mention, 10 tails had been hidden in one style, but he hadn't used it all the time. And it turns out that his caution is right. You guy, it's true. Cautious enough. Yishi's body returned to its original size, and then looked at Chenhui with a grin. Because Chenhui uses the fairy technique chakra, his injury is extremely slow. And just now I was inexplicably angry, you are controlling it. Manipulating emotions, what an amazing ability. Chenhui immediately interrupted with an impatient look. Stop talking nonsense, let's use any other tricks. Otherwise, you won't have this chance. He roared in a low voice. Scarlet, I just used only 30% of my strength. Since I can't lie to you close, let you see Kazuki's true power. With that said, the shady scene immediately spread to the surrounding area. Seeing this, Chenhui hurriedly backed up, and after nearly a kilometer, the shady scene stopped expanding. I knew it. Looking unwillingly at Chenhui who had fled. If Chenhui had just gotten close, he would be able to pull Chenhui into the shady instantly. Unfortunately, Chenhui has never let his guard down. But it can only be so now. He sighed, he really didn't want to use 10 tails. While thinking about it, his huge eyes slowly opened in the dark. In that eye, the bright red Samsara Sharingan was staring at Chenhui indifferently. Chenhui could feel it. The terrifying coercion inside. Then, the dark scene began to slowly dissipate, and the owner of the eyes was completely exposed in front of Chenhui. That was a complete 10 tails. Lying on the head of 10 tails, a tube Z suddenly appeared and inserted behind him. After that, his constantly passing vitality began to stabilize. With the supply of 10 tails vitality, he slowly stood up. He looked at Chenhui coldly and said, I originally wanted to seal you in a different space, and wait for me to recover to the peak, and then clean up you. But I didn't expect you to be so cautious. Now let me summon 10 tails. Then I will solve you in advance. It was a pity that he touched 10 tails under him. The 10 tails under his feet is the best 10 tails in the Otsutsuki clan. Just turn it into a sacred tree and swallow a few planets to reach maturity. After eating the fruit in one style, he can become one of the best in the Otsutsuki clan, saving the accumulation of 10,000 years. He has been reluctant to use it before, but I am afraid that this 10 tails will go wrong. Chenhui, although his power is not better than his peak state, it can hurt him, which means it can hurt 10 tails. If this 10 tails can't reach the perfect state, he will cry without crying. After all, such 10 tails Otsutsuki will also this one. That's why he hesitated. But now that it's a matter of life and death, Yishi has to go all out. He looked at Chenhui viciously, and said in secret, if there is anything wrong with this 10 tails, I must destroy this planet. Kill your relatives one by one in the cruelest way. He is not worried that Chenhui will escape this time. After all, even if this 10 tails is in its infancy, it still possesses the power comparable to his peak period. Chenhui's current strength is far from it. Chenhui solemnly looked at the 10 tails in front of him. He could feel that the power of this 10 tails was far above him. At this time, Yishi had begun to condense and attack without hesitation. I saw 10 tails open his mouth, and countless 5 attributes and even yin-yang chakra began to converge. In this posture, Chenhui knew it was tailed beast bomb. But Chenhui didn't dare to despise this 10 tails as much as other tailed beasts. This tailed beast bomb, but the ultimate tailed beast bomb that condenses all power. Its power is within the 6th level. They are all very powerful. Yishi seems to want to take him away with a single blow. Chenhui can't resist such an attack at this time. And since the appearance of 10 tails, the space blockade of Yishi has become tighter. The current one. Chenhui also can't use a god to leave. Chenhui calmly asked the system. System, is there any way to quickly improve my strength? Host can swallow the last 4 tails chakra to form a perfect 10 tails chakra, then the system will temporarily help the host suppress the 10 tails chakra, so that the host can reach the 6th level for a short time, but this method will also cause indelible damage to the host's body at least. It takes 5 years to recover, then devour the last 4 tails. 5 years, I can still wait. With that said, Chenhui directly took out the four-tail source that had already been cut. Then, with the help of the system, Chenhui instantly absorbed the four-tails source. In the next moment, Chenhui felt the breath of 10 tails exuding from Chenhui's body. And it's no less than the one at his feet. His face suddenly became hard to look. What the hell is this guy doing? Is this the power of the 6 realms? Chenhui tightened his fists, feeling the power in his body that was already a world apart, compared to before. And his eyes at this time have been raised from the eternal Mangekyo to the level of Rinnegan. The center of his eyebrows is bright red. The reincarnation Sharingan has also been opened. At the same time, 9 truth-seeking balls appeared behind Chenhui. And at this time, under the blessing of Rinnegan's pupil power, Chenhui's spatial ability has also entered the 6th level. Suddenly, a single space blockade, the effect of the power has also been greatly reduced. Although there are still restrictions, Chenhui can no longer prevent Chenhui from using his spatial abilities. Suddenly I am looking forward to the situation when the other 2 powers have reached the 6th level. Chenhui is very satisfied with his current strength. If all the 6 levels in the original book are arranged in a level, Madara, who has opened Rinnegan, and Hashirama, who uses Sage Art, is the first level, which can be called Quasi-6. 6-way Naruto, 6-way Sasuke, Otsutsuki Golden Style, and the peak state of Otsutsuki, belong to the 2nd level. The 3 immortals of the 3 Holy Lands are between the 1st level and the 2nd level, and they are not necessarily better than Madara and Hashirama. 6 Obito, Otsutsuki Peach Style is the 3rd level. The strength of these 2 is stronger than either Naruto or Sasuke, but inferior to the combination of Naruto and Sasuke. Otsutsuki Ura Style, between the 2nd level and the 3rd level. 6 Paths Madara, and the 2 brothers Sage of 6 Paths thousands of years ago, belong to the 4th level. The Otsutsuki form and the current Chenhui are between the 3rd level and the 4th level. Otsutsuki Kagaya is the 5th level, but the combat experience is extremely poor. This is Chenhui's general strength distribution based on the performance of the characters in the original book and his experience. The dividing line. Chenhui looked at the ultimate tailed beast bomb that was condensing. He murmured, "It's time to solve you completely now. Harvesting a perfect 10 tails can also make up for my loss a little bit. Try this trick." With that said, Chenhui raised his hands in front of him. The 9 truth-seeking balls behind him were all condensed and merged into the palms of his hands at this time, forming a larger truth-seeking ball. Then this new fusion truth-seeking ball began to expand and grow bigger. In the blink of an eye, it became a black ball no less than the ultimate tailed beast bomb, thousands of meters in diameter. Expanding truth-seeking ball. As a perfect fusion of the existence of 10 tails chakra, Chenhui can now use all the power of this world. He stared fiercely at the floating in the air, like a fairy Chenhui. He felt a huge threat on the truth-seeking ball in Chenhui's hands. Although I don't know what tricks you are playing, but in front of my 10 tails, this time you are dead. Go to hell. Accompanied by a roar, 10 tails under his feet immediately fired the condensed-tailed beast bomb at Chenhui. It's you who should die. Not to be outdone, Chenhui shouted loudly, and then instantly launched the expanded truth-seeking ball in his hand. The purple-tailed beast bomb and the pure black truth-seeking ball exude an aura of destruction. A moment later, the 2 spheres were thousands of meters in size, and they slammed into each other suddenly. But the 2 did not explode immediately, but began to squeeze and fuse. The 2 spheres slowly merged into a larger sphere. One side is purple, the other side, pure black. After a brief silence, a huge roar suddenly resounded across the sky. Boom. At this moment, the entire ninja world heard this ear-splitting. And on the battlefield, with the sphere as the center, the energy began to quickly sweep around. Yishi and Chenhui were in a state of short-term exhaustion, so they were instantly involved in the energy storm. In the face of this violent energy, the space began to twist. So Chenhui did not dare to use the space ability rashly. It is not that there will be danger, but the position of appearance is impossible to determine. Fortunately, he is already a body of 6 ways at this time. Even if he is affected, the injury will also recover quickly. As for the other side, it is also miserable at this time. He is a seriously injured body, relying on the supply of 10 tails vitality to barely maintain a breath. Now he is surrounded by violent energy. Although it is not fatal, it also made him painful. The injuries on his body were made by Chenhui using the purest fairy technique chakra. If he wants to recover quickly, unless his strength is restored to the peak level, or he swallows his feet. 10 tails. But neither of these two methods can be done. The former will take time, and the latter will cut off the road he has prepared for a long time. So now he can only rely on perseverance to endure the pain. At the same time, he prayed in his heart. Chenhui disappeared directly in this energy storm. A little bit of time passed, but the energy storm did not indicate that it would dissipate. While resisting the erosion of the energy storm, Chenhui began to secretly accumulate energy. But the speed at which he accumulates energy is extremely slow. After all, Chenhui is only using the strength of the 6th level for the first time, and even if he comes up with a full blow. So he is still in the adaptation stage at this time. And the other side is also the same. Although he can be perfect controlling 10 tails, but this is only an external force after all. So when the energy storm dissipates, it will be a real showdown. Although Chenhui is not clear about the formula, why did not merge the 10 tails just now? But next, he will give a chance to merge. Next, Chenhui was still there, calculating, but suddenly, he felt a burst of energy again. And this burst of energy was not far away from him. He turned his head and saw that the magic circle that originally sealed the dragon veins, this time has been completely destroyed by the energy storm. The dragon veins. Run away. Chenhui saw this, and the soul suddenly burst out. The dragon veins are not terrible, but once the dragon veins run away, it means that the nodes here will be briefly broken. This is not the simple time and space disorder in the original theatrical version. This is a short-lived world fragmentation. In the system's display, this power is difficult to resist even at the 6th level. Therefore Chenhui can see that with the dragon vein as the center, a black hole slowly forming. Although the black hole began to be annihilated by the corrective power of this world after a moment of formation. But the black hole is still devouring everything around it frantically. And the nearest Chenhui will definitely be sucked in before the black hole is annihilated. Among them, until then, the previous duel between Yishi and Chenhui did not completely affect the dragon veins. However, the scope of this energy storm is too wide, which led to this scene. Thinking of this, Chenhui immediately began to mobilize the power of the space. He can no longer care where he will be teleported to, and it is still important to save his life at this time. In the next instant, Chenhui disappeared in place. After Chenhui disappeared, the black hole was still devouring the surrounding energy. Until it was completely erased by the power of the world's correction. At this time, the energy storm also began to gradually dissipate. Lying on 10 tails back and breathing heavily, his pain was finally over. He also felt the energy that burst out just now, but he didn't have the time to pay attention at that time. Now that the energy storm dissipated, Yishi began to observe the surroundings. I saw a radius of tens of kilometers, and it has turned into a huge Tianqing. Everything in it, including the Lulan ruins, has been completely wiped out. The most important thing is that the Chenhui, who has been thinking about it, is gone at this moment. Seeing this, he quickly perceives the world of ninja through 10 tails. After dozens of minutes of searching, Yishi finally determined one thing: Chenhui has been destroyed by him. Suddenly, he was very relieved. Finally, solved this guy. After correcting for a while, he began to probe the 10 tails under his feet. After discovering that 10 tails was not traumatized by the original source, Yishi breathed a sigh of relief again. But he still said with a reconciled expression, "Unfortunately, it will take several years for the injuries on his body to recover. Then be patient for a few more years." A dark scene emerged. Yishi and 10 tails were gradually swallowed, and then disappeared in place, and this battle also made the world of ninja completely boil. Chapter 91. Bye. Chenhui looked at the surrounding environment and frowned deeply. Unexpectedly, he chose to forcibly fuse 10 tails chakra, and he still fell to this point. Now there is nothingness around him, he doesn't even know where he is. I know, he is definitely no longer in the world of shinobi at this time. Chenhui has tried his best, but the emptiness around him hasn't changed in the slightest. In desperation, he could only ask the system, "System, where am I now?" Host is in a different space among space nodes at this time. Space node. Chenhui's eyes widened suddenly. So I ran into the black hole with God Pro. No, this place is a different space newly formed at the edge of the ninja world after the dragon veins destroy the space node. Different space. Chenhui's brows still frowned. Since it is a different space, why can't I perceive the fluctuation of the space? Because host has exited the 6-path mode, at this time only 10% of the strength is left. Chenhui is a bit confused, he can't feel anything. Isn't it said that after quitting, he will cause indelible damage to the body? Why is his body not at all abnormal now? This kind of damage only affects the strength of the host, not the spirit or physical damage. Please see the attribute panel. Host, Uchiha Chenhui. Age, 15 years old. Blood succession limits, Rinnegan, Reincarnation. Sharingan Seal, 6 Immortal Seals. Ninjutsu. Sage Mode, Rasengan Series, Fire Style Series, Uchiha Stream Swordsmanship. Chakra. The early stage of its own shadow level, the early stage of Shanshu Chakra, the 6 Ashura Chakra, the Seal State Combat Power Evaluation, the late stage of Shadow. At this time, the host has successfully integrated 10 Tails Chakra. However, due to forced integration, it will take 5 years to re-enter the 6 levels. During this period, the strength of the host will steadily recover. Host can also learn Sage Mode to accelerate the recovery of strength. Chenhui mutters said, it seems that the next 5 years will allow me to study Sage Mode well. But I didn't expect to leave Rinnegan to me this time. Chenhui's eyes twitched, and his eyes suddenly turned into azure blue. Rinnegan. It's a pity that the current chakra is not enough, there is no way to use 2 strong moves. Chenhui shook his head regretfully. It seems that he can only wait for the experiment on Rinnegan. Then he looked around for a while and muttered, it's not a problem to stay here for 5 years. I can't practice cultivation. System, is there any way to get me out? You still have some remaining 6 powers in your body, I can help you mobilize them to break the different space and perceive the outer space. Chenhui's eyes suddenly lit up, let's start. As soon as the voice fell, Chenhui felt a familiar breath rushing into his eyes. He immediately turned on Rinnegan, and then the energy forcibly tore a hole in front of him. Suddenly, the familiar spatial fluctuations in the ninja world appeared again. Chenhui's expression was overjoyed, and then in an instant, Shen Ellen left the alien space. Where is this, again? Chenhui's face was speechless. Although it was pitch black, he knew he was staying in a forest. The surrounding landforms and air, as well as the bright stars in the sky, but the starry sky of the moon is not visible. All this is completely different from the ninja realm. This is not what makes him speechless. What makes him speechless is, he clearly perceives the ninja realm, the spatial fluctuation of, as soon as the result was transmitted, the spatial fluctuation changed. Although it is 90% similar to the ninja world, Chenhui still realizes that he is definitely not in the ninja world at this time. Or, definitely not the one he knew well. Ninja world. But at this moment, Chenhui's expression changed suddenly. He raised his head and quickly looked to the west. I saw a shooting star falling downwards. He felt two vitality in the shooting star. And one of the auras, it's the Otsutsuki who just fought with him not long ago. Seeing this, Chenhui suddenly asked with a solemn expression, System, where am I now? Opening square bracket ... After inspection, this place is the ninja world 1,000 years ago. Chenhui suddenly brushed her face speechlessly. Counting it all, this is the second time he has crossed. But soon Chenhui's inspiration flashed, this era has the fruit of the sacred tree. After swallowing it, his strength will not only recover, but also a higher level. Thinking of this, Chenhui immediately began to investigate. Sure enough, he found the trace of the sacred tree in the east soon. However, at this moment, the system suddenly made a sound. Warning. Host is not available. Change the general trend, otherwise future generations will change. Host will not be affected because of the system, but people related to the host may disappear because of this. Please proceed with caution. Oh, hope is shattered. Chenhui shook his head, but he quickly adjusted his mentality. Just because I was too excited, I didn't think about the follow-up impact. Now that he has recovered, his mentality has naturally returned to peace. Then Chenhui instructed the system, if what I do later will drastically change the future, please remind me immediately. Yes, Chenhui continued to ask, then when can I return to the millennium? When the host's strength is restored to the 6th level, it will be rejected by the current time period, and then the system will help the host to complete the return. Well, it's time to change the environment to relax. Chenhui nodded, and then disconnected from the system. Now, let's go and take a look over there. Chenhui looked at the place where Otsutsuki and Otsutsuki Kagaya landed. Then his figure disappeared in an instant. Look, it's a woman. As soon as Chenhui appeared, he heard a loud noise. He turned his head and saw that according to him, more than 10 meters away, there were more than a dozen soldiers wearing costumes from 1,000 years ago and holding spears. The group did not notice Chenhui's arrival, but pointed to the woods ahead. Chenhui followed their line of sight. A woman who was very familiar with her body exuding a blue light, was slowly walking out of the forest. Name: Otsutsuki Kagaya Bloodline. Byakugan Skill: Byakugan Coercion. Chakra: Early Shadow Level. Combat Power: Early Shadow Level. Who are you? Kagaya stopped and looked at Chenhui with emotionless eyes. She felt a strong threat on Chenhui. At this time, the group of soldiers realized Chenhui's figure later. They suddenly changed their expressions, and then grabbed their spears and pointed at Chenhui. Who are you and why are you trespassing on our ancestors' country? Chenhui was not interested in a few of them. After an illusion passed, the group of people fainted. My name is Chenhui, I think we can talk. Chenhui looked at Kagaya with a smile on his face. Under the beautiful starry sky, Chenhui and Kagaya are sitting opposite each other. The tables and chairs were placed in the portable space by Chenhui a long time ago, and they are now very convenient to use. Chenhui looked at Kagaya carefully, but Kagaya still looked at him coldly. I have to say that Kagaya's face under normal conditions is extremely delicate, which makes Chenhui not stunned for a moment. And after a short observation, Chenhui discovered that Kagaya's eyes were not without emotion, but now she still doesn't know what emotion is. After a long time, Kagaya couldn't help but speak first. You have chakra on your body. Are you also from the Otsutsuki clan? With that said, Chenhui noticed that Kagaya clenched his fists under the table. Chenhui can feel that Kagaya is nervous now. And Chenhui also knows the reason for her nervousness. Kagaya just attacked her teammate Otsutsuki. That's why she was very wary of Chenhui, who was carrying chakra. Chenhui smiled slightly, but didn't want to the meaning of concealment. Don't worry, I am not from the Otsutsuki clan. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Kagaya's clenched fists, and he immediately relaxed. Chenhui couldn't help being a little bit funny, and said in secret, it's so easy to believe me, it's really silly, white and sweet. As a result, Chenhui suddenly couldn't help but want to tease Kagaya. He looked at Kagaya jokingly and said, I relaxed so soon. You won't be so easy, believe what I just said. What? Kagaya was taken aback when he heard the words. Then Chenhui felt her heart, suddenly more nervous than before. Ha 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 ha. Chenhui couldn't help laughing. Kagaya, who is called the stage, is too fun. You lie to me. Seeing Chenhui suddenly laughed, Kagaya reacted. Even when she was cute, she was being tricked. She immediately glared at Chenhui. But in Chenhui, she looked angry, but she was even more cute. Okay, don't tease you anymore. Chenhui waved his hand, then looked at Kagaya's eyes seriously, and said, you don't have to worry about my identity. Strictly speaking, the relationship between me and the Otsutsuki clan is also a life and death relationship. The one companion you just attacked you just now, I see it all. So we are all along the enemy of the Otsutsuki clan. When Chenhui said this, Kagaya's face suddenly became soft. Seeing this, Chenhui took a sip from the teacup on the table. Then he said, I don't know the Otsutsuki clan. Is it convenient to share information about this clan with me? Kagaya shook her head, when her expression had returned to plainness. She said, I don't know them either. Oh, Chenhui was stunned for a moment, he really didn't expect this. Kagaya, as a member of the Otsutsuki clan, did not even know his own clan. It seems that the Otsutsuki clan is very hidden. But soon Kagaya began to introduce his own situation, Chenhui only it was not what he thought it was. Kagaya's special status in the Otsutsuki clan. Strictly speaking, she has only joined the Otsutsuki clan for only 3 years. The whole story, it is like this. The number of Otsutsuki clan is only about 100. They will divide the clansmen into their own family, clan family, and branch house according to the degree of bloodliness. Among them, the family has the highest status, and the entire ethnic group has only about 10. And the branch house has the lowest status, and the number of people is also the largest. The family is superior, basically only in the clan enjoys chakra supplies from all over the world. The clan family is responsible for guarding the sacred tree, supplying most of the chakra collected to the race every millennium, leaving only a small part of it. The branch house serves as the guardian and slave of the clan, taking care of the clan's daily life and protecting the safety of the clan. Keigaya's mother is a member of the family, and one of the few people who like to go to the universe to collect chakra by herself. However, more than 20 years ago, Keigaya's mother fell in love with an ordinary person so bloody. And Keigaya was conceived with that person. After hiding it for more than 10 years, the news was still known by the Otsutsuki clan. It shocked the entire Otsutsuki clan. You know, the Otsutsuki people have always regarded themselves as the most noble people, and they regard other life in the universe as inferior. As the most noble family of Otsutsuki, Keigaya's mother married a low-ranking person. Give birth to a child. How does this make other self-described noble Otsutsuki people not feel ashamed? So the Otsutsuki clan directly sent masters to slaughter the planet where Keigaya's father was located. Keigaya and her mother were also released and returned to the Otsutsuki clan. In the end, Keigaya's mother chose to exchange her life for Keigaya's life. Keigaya was originally a shame. Even if her mother used her life to save her life, she could only become a branch house person. However, Keigaya's blood is extraordinary, even stronger than some of the family members. Therefore, after discussion, he was given the status of Keigaya clan. But Keigaya was still excluded by all the Otsutsuki people, because she had the blood of ordinary people. After becoming a clan, Keigaya chose to go to a place to guard the tree. In the end, Keigaya came to the special place of Earth Star, according to her mother's instructions before her death. Keigaya's mother told Keigaya that the situation here is very special. As long as you eat the fruits of the sacred tree here, Keigaya at least will gain the power to protect itself in front of the Otsutsuki clan. So Keigaya began preparations to travel to Earth. But the Otsutsuki clan still felt uneasy about her. It just so happened that at this time, as one of the family's styles, I wanted to go to the universe to experience it. So my family sent a style. This is considered to be a talented person in this family. They let Yishi and Keigaya form a team one in order to use Yishi to monitor Keigaya. And Keigaya is acting as a facilitator, following Yishi. This is the meaning of the Otsutsuki clan, which means servant. So Keigaya was angry, but also in order to protect the secret of Earth Star. In the end, Keigaya chose to sneak attack with the means left by her mother at the moment of arrival. The members of the Otsutsuki clan outside contact the group only once in 1,000 years. So Keigaya wanted to eat the fully ripe fruit during this period to improve his strength. In order to get rid of the shackles of Otsutsuki. After talking about this, Keigaya sighed slightly. Unfortunately, even with the means left by her mother, I can only get seriously injured. Although he is dying now, he still cannot end his life without the power of my mother's level. Chenhui nodded slightly, but in order to prevent too much change in the future, he was not prepared to take action to destroy the one now. After all, even if it is the future one, it is now in a serious state of injury. There is no time for 4 or 5 years, and it is impossible to recover. Of course, it's not impossible for him to recover faster, he only needs to absorb his own 10 tails. But this is obviously impossible. After all, he didn't do it when he was dying. Now Chenhui has disappeared, and again it seems. Chenhui is dead, so he has no reason to do this. Therefore, Chenhui doesn't mind letting one style live for 1,000 years. It seems that the enemy we are going to face is very troublesome. Chenhui frowned slightly and didn't get any useful news from Keigaya, which he didn't expect. The Otsutsuki clan is undoubtedly his ultimate opponent, so he must get some information about Otsutsuki's strength. At this time, Keigaya also looked at Chenhui apologetically. Sorry, I don't have any useful information. It's okay. Chenhui smiled and shook his head. Then a trace of confidence flashed across his face. As long as I deal with them, my strength will reach the point where no one can match. Then the situation of the Otsutsuki clan does not matter. Keigaya frowned slightly and said, but your current strength. In her investigation, Chenhui was better than her. But this kind of strength is in front of the Otsutsuki clan, and it can't make any waves. Otsutsuki can send a person to death with one hand. Chenhui shrugged, said, the current strength is indeed weak. But now my performance is even 10% of my peak, none. You can think of me as, because of some special reasons, my strength has been temporarily sealed. But it only takes a while to adjust, and this seal will slowly be unlocked. As for me at the peak, I won't be weaker than that. Kagaya nodded when he heard the words. As for how much she believed, then only she knew. At this moment, Chenhui suddenly had a flash of inspiration. He quickly grabbed Thisora, and asked, that strength, what grade does it belong to in the Otsutsuki clan? Kagaya groaned for a moment, and then slowly said, except for the group of elders in the family. I don't know the strength of the elders, the clan has only 3 or 4 and 34 lives for a long time. So Yishi's strength should be in the top 20, no, the top 15. Chenhui immediately understood it. Kagaya's words completely confirmed his previous conjecture. The planet where the ninja world is located is definitely one of the most powerful planets in this world. So even if Kagaya only ate incomplete fruits, can also far surpass the accumulated trio of Otsutsuki for thousands of years. After all, the 2 Naruto, who have the power of the incomplete sacred tree, can destroy these 3 guys. Fast point. Suddenly, a faint and noisy voice came over. Chenhui and Kagaya turned their heads and took a look. Hundreds of meters away, a group of hundreds of people were rushing here with torches. Interesting guy. Chenhui took a sip of tea and stopped talking to Kagaya. After a few minutes, the group of people finally arrived here. They stopped more than 10 meters away from Chenhui. Then, one of the guys who was quite young and had the potential for a little white face took a step forward. He first looked at the soldiers who had been hit by Chenhui's illusion in the distance, lying in one piece. After frowning slightly, he turned his eyes on the 2 Chenhui. And when he passed Chenhui and saw Kagaya, his eyes suddenly flashed with surprise. The original angry question was immediately swallowed by him. He suddenly smiled and put on a face that he thought was gentle. Then he said, lonely is the name of the motherland, and the land is the territory of my motherland. The group of soldiers lying in the distance are also my men. I don't know who the 2 are, my soldier is promising to lie there. If there is something between us, we can sit down and talk. Chenhui ignored the question of the fatherland daimyo, but looked at Kagaya with a smile on his face. I feel that this person seems to have an idea for you. What do you mean? Kagaya stared at Chenhui blankly. Chenhui raised his eyebrows, and said, that's. I like your beauty. Look at him. As soon as he came up, he put on his honorable identity, and he was so gentle in the face of us who might be hostile. Enough. Kagaya interrupted Chenhui's words. Listening to Chenhui's words, she still didn't understand what Chenhui meant. Suddenly, she looked at the daimyo of the motherland with a bad face. Since her mother's accident, what happened in the Otsutsuki clan, let her reject such people with ulterior motives very much. Chenhui is not counted, because he is an ollie. Yes, after only more than an hour of contact, Kagaya has trusted Chenhui. Chenhui, who can perceive emotions, naturally understands Kagaya's treatment of him. The senses. In the words of his previous life, Kagaya is really a silly white sweet. 2. The motherland daimyo looked at Chenhui and Kagaya with some irritation. He is a daimyo, the most noble existence in this country. Just now he has condescended to talk to these 2 people, and these 2 people are so incompetent. He is angry, said in his voice. This is my territory. The 2 soldiers who wounded me, don't you plan to give me an explanation? You have a lot of nonsense. The eyes of Chenhui looking at the fatherland of the country suddenly became cold. Under Chenhui's icy eyes, the fatherland of the motherland suddenly felt cold, and he subconsciously stepped back. The threatening words in his mouth were instantly swallowed by him. But soon he woke up again, and a sense of humiliation suddenly came to his mind. This is his territory, and there are nearly 100 soldiers behind him. Why should he be afraid of Chenhui? Don't you? Quote. He immediately wanted to warn Chenhui again. But Chenhui didn't want to continue listening to his nonsense. Chenhui just gave him a glance. In an instant, the great name of the motherland was wrapped in a black flame that suddenly appeared. Ah! After a scream, he turned into fly ash under the high temperature of Amaterasu. This. The soldiers who saw this scene in the back were suddenly terrified, and backed back and forth under Chenhui's cold gaze. Monster! Monster! However, at this moment, the confidant of the fatherland daimyo suddenly stepped forward. He shouted, "This must be the demon method he used. Let's go together and kill him to avenge the daimyo." Xiaoban, who was also loyal to the great name of the motherland, heard this, and immediately clenched his weapon and took a step forward. Kill him. Then these people, under the leadership of that confidant, clenched their weapons and rushed towards Chenhui. Stubborn. Chenhui shook his head, and then extended his right hand to the group of people. Spicy stuffing. What? A huge repulsive force erupted from the palm of Chenhui's palm, and immediately swept the group of soldiers. Then, under the huge repulsive force, they instantly turned into a blood mist. The blood mist that filled the sky suddenly splashed on the group behind, and did not do anything. People's face. Ah! A group of soldiers no longer had the courage to resist, they dropped their weapons and began to flee backwards. Stop. However, Chenhui only let out a cold drink, and the group of soldiers froze in place instantly. Turn around. The soldiers turned tremblingly, not daring to resist. Chenhui looked at them coldly and said, "Gather all the people in your country. If you can't do it before dawn, these people will be your fate. Don't think about running away. As long as you are still alive in this world, I can get you out." Yes. This group of people did not dare to resist the slightest, but kept nodding their heads. Go away. Chenhui waved his hand, and the group of people immediately ran back like an amnesty. For fear that if you take a step slower, they will follow the footsteps of the group of rebels. Chenhui turned to look at the words, and smiled. Look at today, I can't talk anymore. It's better to go with me and see how this country is. It is good. Kagaya nodded, then got up and followed Chenhui. Early in the morning, under the gloomy sky, the square of the motherland was crowded with residents of the motherland. The motherland is only a small country, so there are only 2,000 to 3,000 people in it. This group of people was gathered by the group of soldiers, and the reason for the gathering was to welcome the gods. The group of soldiers stayed away from Chenhui's side, and after calming down, they began to discuss countermeasures. The idea of escaping is the first abandoned by them. Because Chenhui's deterrence just shown has completely made them shudder. Not to mention Chenhui deliberately warned them before leaving, they even dare not run away. Since they escape method is not working, they then began to discuss how to complete Chenhui's instructions. It must be impossible to say directly. That way, without Chenhui's hands, the angry people will tear them up. The daimyo of the motherland still has a great place in the hearts of the people. So they thought of a compromise. They combined Chenhui and Chenhui. Kagaya is called a god. The origin is that the daimyo of the motherland used a secret method to sacrifice himself, thereby summoning the gods from the gods' realm to help the people of the motherland. When they said this, the people suddenly believed in 30%, this era people still believe in God. So this group of talents are willing to stand on the square in such bad weather, waiting for Chenhui, the coming of God. I didn't expect this group of soldiers to have some brains, came up with such a way. Chenhui and Kagaya are standing on the hillside outside the capital of the motherland. Chenhui told the whole story. Kagaya, who was aside, a smile suddenly appeared on Kagaya's face. At this time, the pattering raindrops suddenly began to fall. Chenhui stretched out his hand to feel it, and then smiled at Kagaya. Let's go, now it's time for our two gods to appear. With that said, Chenhui took Kagaya's hand directly. Kagaya was suddenly stiff, but she did not struggle, who was not good at speaking. Chenhui smiled slightly when he saw this. Then, he pulled Kagaya and appeared in the sky above the square instantly. Quick, look. A few sharp-eyed people below suddenly exclaimed the to Chenhui, who pointed in the air. Swipe. Thousands of people suddenly looked up. It fell from the sky. It's really a god. God. In the awe of the eyes of a group of people, Chenhui pulled Kagaya slowly and landed on the high platform of the square. Since those soldiers came up with the convenient identity of a god, for him, Chenhui would naturally not use it. Chenhui glanced around, and the people below all looked at him with awe. It seems that his appearance effect is very good. Chenhui smiled, and then only said one sentence. I am here to make this world prosper and get rid of suffering. With that said, Chenhui gathered most of chakra in the palm of his hand, and then aimed at the sky. Spicy stuffing. Suddenly, the entire sky was bombarded by the ray of sunlight and all the people on the square were living at the same time. After a moment of silence, a huge cheer enveloped the city. Countless people suddenly kneeled in front of Chenhui yelled, "Worship my God." But Chenhui didn't enjoy their kneeling, which is meaningless to him. After sending a few sentences to the group of soldiers, he took Kagaya and disappeared again. Blinking an eye, 3 months passed. Under the thinking that Chenhui has been leading for several eras, the motherland has begun to undergo earth-shaking changes. And the group of soldiers who have a lot of brains, Chenhui also gifted them a trace of chakra. This group of people immediately had an extraordinary foundation. In this era, the total number of people in the entire ninja world is less than 200,000. So Chenhui is ready to experience a wave of unification in this era. This will not affect future generations. After all, even Chenhui, if you don't do it, Kagaya will be unified in the future. In the temple built by the people of the motherland for Chenhui and Kagaya. When are you going to devour the fruits of the sacred tree? Chenhui looked at Kagaya and asked. Kagaya said, now is not the best time to collect the fruits. But, a hint of hesitation flashed across her face, but she still gritted her teeth and said, but when the fruit really matures, this world will be destroyed. But if it is the immature fruit, I don't know if I can deal with the Otsutsuki group, people. So Chenhui took Kagaya's hand and comforted him, don't worry, you still have me. I will deal with the group of Otsutsuki. Okay. Kagaya nodded with a reddish face. In 3 months, facing the silly white sweetness of Kagaya, Chenhui naturally took it easily. Chenhui continued, but you still have to eat the fruit. Even if it is incomplete, it can give you an immortal body, and it can also give you power far beyond one. And now my strength is sealed, and I can't face the group of Otsutsuki people for the time being. If they come here now, it will be troublesome to know that you sneak attack. Only if you eat the fruit can we not be helpless during this period. I understand. Kagaya nodded firmly. However, at this moment, an anxious voice came over. Report. Then, a soldier knelt down outside the door. Master God, Minister Suzaku and Minister Xuanwu of the other country called to see you. Chenhui shouted. The ministers of the 2 countries, are you so flustered? The soldier then remembered that they are now subordinates of the God, so there is no need to fear the kingdom of the other. The soldier suddenly said in panic, I'm sorry. Your lord, Where are they? Chenhui asked faintly. They are in the reception room. As soon as the soldier's voice fell, Chenhui took Kagaya and disappeared instantly. Chenhui and Kagaya appeared outside the reception room. When several guards saw that they were about to salute, they were interrupted by Chenhui's wave. In the reception room, there was a burst of arrogant laughter at this time. People from the motherland dare not make public here, so it is undoubtedly the 2 ministers of the other country who laughed. Chenhui held Kagaya in without expression. Grown-ups. The person in charge of the reception in the motherland suddenly shouted in surprise. He is one of the few soldiers who were given chakra by Chenhui, so he is not afraid of these 2 guys in the other country. But Chenhui did not come. No matter how angry he was, he didn't dare to make a decision on his own, so he had to bear it. Now Chenhui arrived, he was immediately overjoyed. Although his knowledge of Chenhui is very shallow, he knows that Chenhui will definitely not be able to tolerate these 2 arrogant guys. Chenhui glanced at the soldier's thoughts. So he said faintly, if you encounter this kind of person in the future, just do it. Yes, the soldier responded with excitement. Hey, you are the so-called God. At this time, the minister of the other country was upset that the thin man stood up immediately. He arrogantly looked at Chenhui. It doesn't look very good. It's God, I'm Pooh. But your woman is very nice. Chenhui glanced at him coldly, and he was immediately sentenced to death in his heart. My mouth is so dirty, I slap my mouth. What else did the man want to say, but he found that his body suddenly became out of control. Pop. Snapped. He began to pump his mouth with both hands, and he used 10% of his strength in each stroke. Suzaku Minister, the companion of the thin man, the minister Xuanwu, was suddenly shocked. Then he looked at Chinhui with an angry look and roared, "What did you do to the minister Suzaku? Do you know that you are offending my country again, and our country will not let you go? Quickly let Minister Suzaku stop, otherwise." Minister Xuanwu was warning in anger, but suddenly he felt cold all over. He looked up, only to find that Chinhui was looking at him with a look of death. Suddenly, his heart trembled suddenly, and then subconsciously read what was behind. I swallowed my stomach. Chinhui looked at him with no trace of emotion, and said coldly, "You people in the other country, like you, can't see the situation clearly. My own palm." After Chinhui finished speaking, Minister Xuanwu felt that his body was suddenly out of control. Then, like Minister Suzaku, he began to slap his mouth with both hands with all his strength. Pop! Snapped, snapped, the applause of the two ministers of the other country one after another. Soon, the corners of the mouths of the two people began to swell and red, and then blood began to gush out soon. But without Chinhui's nod, they could only continue to slap their mouths. "Tell me what it is." Chinhui took Kagaya to the top spot. The soldier immediately stepped forward and said, "This country is for the lake in the north of our country this time. They said that it was their territory a long time ago, so they have to forcibly seize the past. This kind of thing is not once or twice. Before that country, as the strongest country around, it often provokes neighboring countries for various reasons. The purpose is to make neighboring countries angry, and then they can send troops in a reasonable way." After Kagaya listened, she frowned slightly. Then she said softly, "This country is really annoying to start wars at will. ! You hate it? Then destroy it." Chinhui smiled slightly, his expression was so calm, as if he was just talking about shooting an ant again. Then his expression changed and he began to summon the soldiers of the motherland. Yin Dun is a representative of spiritual power, and now Chinhui uses it to send messages. It was so easy. The Yamanaka family did not have such a strong power to perform secret arts. So soon, 99 soldiers stood neatly outside the house. Adding this one beside Chinhui, exactly 100 soldiers. Some of these people were given chakra by him 3 months ago. Some of them were selected by Chinhui during this period. They were loyal and talented enough. Chinhui walked to the faces of this group of people and said, "You are all selected by me, from this country. Some of you have experienced the extraordinary power I bestowed before. As for those, no, I will give you this time too." As he said, Chinhui waved his big hand, and dozens of chakra seeds immediately shot at those new people. In the excited and admired eyes of the soldiers, Chinhui continued, "The country is vainly trying to destroy the peace, so it is time for you to use this kind of power to protect your country." "Yes," a group of soldiers immediately responded enthusiastically. Chinhui nodded and continued, "I said when I came here, I will make this world prosper. 3 months have passed, and it's time for this world to change. From today onwards, the motherland will be renamed the Dragon Kingdom, and the goal of the Dragon Kingdom is to unify the world. Go, use the power I give you to liberate the world." That country is just the beginning. Among the 100 soldiers, except for those who have just obtained chakra, the others can reach Genin's level at this time. And Chinhui, in order not to affect the progress, only the most basic ninjutsu was taught to this group of people. But despite this group of people is a disaster-like existence for any country in this world. The night has fallen, selected in Chinhui under the leadership of the leader. 100 of these 100 people sneaked into that country. They are not ready to directly crush the other country. After all, this will cause a lot of casualties. And in this era, the most precious thing is population. Therefore, under Chinhui's signal, they are preparing to come to a soldier who will defeat others without a fight. With the smallest casualties, seize the country of the other. The country of the other is the surrounding the strongest country. The capital city is several times larger than the motherland, and the degree of prosperity is even more so. And in the capital city, all the generals and ministers, including the name of the country, live. Not long ago, they just held the event, a banquet for the motherland celebrating the upcoming territory of the motherland. Yes, when the other country sent 2 ministers, it already imposed the death penalty on the motherland. They didn't think the motherland or even the surrounding any country is capable of resisting their army. All of them have long been used to celebrating in advance. But what they don't know is that their enjoyment time will be completely over tonight. It is late at night, and the soldiers of the Dragon Kingdom begin to pair up, separate and sneak into the homes of the ministers. These, although the ministers of the other country are arrogant, they still cherish their lives, so many guards are arranged around the mansion. These guards have been trained by the ministers since childhood. Come out, you will only obey the orders of the ministers. So for ordinary people, infiltrating assassination is an impossible task. But Chenhui sent is not ordinary people. An illusion technique has passed, even if it is just the most basic illusion technique. This group is just the guards of ordinary people fell to the ground instantly. Then, they entered the house, cut their throats, bagged, and left. A series of operations were like clouds and flowing water, and no one could find the Shinigami in their shadows. The ministers of that country ended their lives in their sleep. Then, it dawned. Ah! A shrill scream sounded through the entire daimyo mansion. The guards woke up one after another, and then quickly broke into the daimyo's room. But when the door was opened, they instantly collapsed to the ground. I saw the daimyo of the other country curled up at the corner of the bed, and around the bed, there are dozens of heads neatly arranged. Looking at the appearance of those heads, they are the ministers of the other country. And the top of the head of the other country is also hung with two heads with swollen faces. They are the ministers of Suzaku and Xuanwu who were sent to the motherland. And then they noticed that the great name of that country had been shaved to a bald head at this time. His hair was scattered on the whole bed. Seeing this scene, these people still don't understand. This must be a warning from the motherland to them. Report. However, at this moment, a soldier hurried over. But when he saw the scene of the room, he knelt down in front of the door. Say. What happened again? A daring guard asked tremblingly. The soldier exclaimed in horror. The country of the motherland sent an envoy, saying that you will let the daimyo visit their god. Otherwise the gift to you will be the fate of that country. As soon as this statement was made, the bodies of everyone present trembled at the same time, and a fear emerged in their hearts. Big. Sir. The guard leader swallowed and spit, and tremblingly asked the great name of the country. What to do? Hearing the words of that country's famous name, his body suddenly shuddered. He has not yet recovered from his fear. After all, he opened his eyes and found that he was surrounded by human heads. Anyone would be frightened. At this time, several people ran outside. Come here. Report. The ministers were cut off at home, and all the guards didn't notice it. The news came, and the fear in the hearts of this group of people was suddenly increased. The guard commander shouted with a hint of crying, "My lord, you are, decide soon." "No more, decided, we will end up like this too." As soon as these words came out, the great name of the other country suddenly woke up from fear. This is not, when you are afraid, the most important thing is how to save your life. He immediately panicked and shouted, "Quick! Get ready, send me to the ancestors' country." The guards breathed a sigh of relief, and then moved quickly. More than 10 minutes later, a carriage rushed out of the city gate almost frantically and ran towards the motherland. Chenhui not interested in this kind of power alternation. It happened that Kagaya wanted to create peace in this world, so Chenhui left everything to her to take care of. Chenhui himself started the practice of sage mode. After being frightened, the daimyo of the other country directly surrendered all his rights, only begging for his life. So the territory of the Dragon Kingdom instantly expanded several times. At the same time, the name of the two gods of the Dragon Kingdom, and began to spread it in the surrounding countries. The big names of the small country heard about the incident in the other country, and they expressed their intention to belong to the Dragon Country under fear. Kagaya did not kill them, just take away the power of those rich and powerful, and then give them the identity of a rich man. After stabilizing the Dragon Kingdom, Kagaya swallowed the fruit of the sacred tree with the help of Chenhui. In an instant, Kagaya has the power that represents the ultimate of the 6 paths here. Chenhui said that it must be fake not to envy, but he will not snatch Kagaya's power. It was because I didn't want to change the future, now. In the next half year, Kagaya, under Chenhui's guidance, developed the entire Dragon Kingdom into an extremely safe country. And chakra began to be taught in the Dragon Kingdom gradually. However, stability is always short-lived. After all, this land is not only the country of the other country. The matter of the Dragon Kingdom soon spread to the ears of the more distant powers. These countries are suspicious of Theogod, of the Dragon Kingdom. Attitude, I think it's just the propaganda of the Dragon Kingdom. But just in case, these countries also began to secretly unite. At this moment, Kaguya began a new round of unification. Suddenly, the Dragon Kingdom and these countries began a head-on conflict. Kaguya originally wanted to continue to use Chenhui's intimidation tactics, but although these countries were afraid, they had no intention of surrendering. Those powerful had increased the number of their own guards, and even lived directly in the barracks. Then, they fought. With dozens of times the military advantage of the Dragon Kingdom, it was temporarily tied with the Dragon Kingdom's army. But this is not surprising. After all, the training speed of the Dragon Kingdom's army is still too short. At this time, Kaguya has no plans to take action personally. After all, she does not need her to come forward at this level to deal with ordinary people. And this is also a kind of training for the Dragon Kingdom army. However, the next thing, Kaguya can't help it. I ended up personally. Those countries saw that they were in a stalemate with the Dragon Kingdom's army, and they suddenly became crooked. They began to send small groups of troops into the Dragon Kingdom to make trouble, and even began to slaughter the village. This suddenly made Kaguya furious. Lee, let her be like this. There is an indispensable thing. Reason for forgiveness. Kaguya personally ended. Just one face-to-face, the coalition forces of various countries were defeated by Kaguya. Then Kaguya did not forgive those troops. She sent those people to God. The tree has become the nourishment of the sacred tree. Maybe in a few years, these people will become white Zetsu. When Chenhui knew about this, he could only lament the impermanence of the world. The correction of the plot still made white Zetsu appear in this world. And with Kaguya's big exhibition Kamui, the country of this land no longer dare violate the Dragon Kingdom. In just 1 month, the Dragon Kingdom has become the only country in this land. Even the Kingdom of Water that is far overseas and later generations has also been included in the territory of the Dragon Kingdom. In this way, Kaguya used absolute power to establish a real peace. Although there were various complaints in the country at the beginning, with the benefits of real peace, such voices quickly disappeared. Time passed quickly, and in a blink of an eye it was the past 10 years. People have gradually forgotten the original country, only remembering where they belong now, the Dragon Kingdom. And during this time, the relationship between Chenhui and Kaguya has also increased day by day. What should be done and what should not be done, have also been done. Although the Chenhui Club tried its best to suppress its own strength, it was time to part with it. After a sweet talk, Chenhui reluctantly embarked on the road of return. At the same time, the system also began to show him what happened after he left. Chenhui also wants to know how the plot will be revised. After all, when he left, he was sure that Kaguya was not pregnant. According to the system, the nature of their lives had begun to change drastically. Therefore, it is not easy to give birth to offspring. After Chenhui left, under Kaguya's governance, the Dragon Kingdom remained stable. 10 years have passed in a blink of an eye, and Kaguya's miss for Chenhui has increased day by day. However, on this day, Kaguya discovered that the sacred tree had changed. When she came to the sacred tree, she discovered that the sacred tree had actually given birth to 2 lives. But these 2 lives it is fragile and will pass away at any time. After a moment of hesitation, Kaguya still passed his life breath to these 2 beings. The 2 beings quickly turned into human appearances. And because of the life breath of Kaguya, they both have their own horns. Kaguya named the 2 children Otsutsuki Hamura, Otsutsuki Hagoromo, and considered them his sons. Hamura and Hagar received the blessings of the whole Dragon Kingdom. However, because Kaguya likes to do everything by himself, he spends most of the day dealing with state affairs. And Hamura and Hei were taken care of by Kaguya's maid Ai most of the time. Aino has followed Kaguya since Kaguya came, so her age is now more than 40. But because of Kaguya's help, Aino has always looked like when she was young. But after all, she is just an ordinary person, and her lifespan is limited. And Kaguya's relationship with Aino is very good. Especially after Chenhui leaves, Kaguya is the only one who can talk to Aino. So she naturally didn't want Aino to die. So she thought of a compromise. send Aino to the sacred tree, and use the power of the sacred tree to freeze Aino's lifespan. In the future, Chenhui will be left to find a way to truly extend Aino's lifespan. But all this was taken advantage of by the conspirators hiding in the dark. Hamura and Hei soon reached adulthood. Their relationship with Kagaya is a bit rusty, and their heart is more in awe of Kagaya. And after adulthood, they began to miss the Auntie who took care of them during their childhood. They questioned Aino's inexplicable disappearance and Kagaya's ambiguous answer. Then, they began to search for secrets. During this period, they solidified the Talking Toad Sage, which was later the Great Toad Sage. Under the guidance of the two brothers finally found Aino on the sacred tree. Then, Toadji began to explain all this to the two brothers. It described Kagaya as a selfish and domineering existence. All people who violate Kagaya he was sent to the sacred tree to become a weapon without thinking white Zetsu. Suddenly, the two brothers were seduced. Chenhui knew that this was the conspiracy of the three holy places. Even if he knew that Kagaya would not die, Chenhui still can't suppress the anger in his heart. He has already sentenced to death for the three holy places in his heart. The matter on Kagaya's side is still going on. After the two brothers improved their strength, they came to Kagaya and questioned Kagaya. Then it was the plot of the original book. The only difference is that the current Kagaya is in Chenhui's patrol of Asin, but has experienced a lot of battles. So the two brothers are not Kagaya's opponents to their best. At this time, the three great immortals of the three holy places of this generation came. They began to cooperate with the two brothers, and finally succeeded in sealing Kagaya, and the ninja world also began to have a moon. After this battle, the two brothers also learned about the conspiracy of the three holy places. But they have offended Kagaya, they can only make mistakes. And although their strength is stronger than the three immortals of this generation, if they continue to fight, the world of ninja it is bound to be destroyed. Therefore, after the battle, the two brothers signed an agreement with the three holy places. The three holy places cannot interfere with the progress of the ninja world, and the body of the three great immortals must not descend in the ninja world. Then, the younger brother Hamura was in his heart guilty, so I chose to take some people to the moon. After that, it was the plot of the original book, and after the system showed Chenhui all of this, it also began to return with Chenhui. Advisor, I think we should get a share of the pie. Yes, if we join in at this stage, we won't have the slightest loss. In the Kurigakure conference room, a group of more than 10 people are discussing the new situation in the ninja world. And now it has been 3 years since Chenhui left. Terumi Mei tapped the table lightly, and the others suddenly waiting for her decision in silence. Now Terumi Mei has grown up completely. After all, when Chenhui left, she gave her all the power. And over the years, she has really understood Chenhui's intentions. So now she has already become a decision maker, not a secretary who can only do things. Terumi Mei looked up and scanned the meeting room. Starting from her right-hand side, first Uchiha Penghai and Uchiha Kwan, then Hoshigaki Kisame and Nazai. After that, the 444 she selected were both clever and heartfelt helpers, plus Yuenshi. After that is the Tsunade, Orochimaru and Six Tails Jinchuriki Bubbles on her left. These people here, are now Wuren village, or the highest level of Chenhui's subordinates. And they are discussing Konoha and the other three. The problem of war in Daren village. The battle between Chenhui and the One Type 1 directly shocked the entire ninja world. All the ninja villages sent people to check the battlefield, even Wuren village. Then I was deeply shocked by the battle scene that spread for tens of kilometers. This kind of battle is several times more exaggerated than the Battle of End Valley. Obviously, the strength of the warring parties has exceeded the imagination of the entire ninja world. It is definitely not what they can match, even if they are united. After all, they have no choice but to face Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama at the time. Let alone be more powerful than these two. Only Kurinin village and Iwagakure I guessed it, there must be Chenhui on the two sides of the battle. But they did not publicize it. Therefore, in this way, the ninja world was stabilized in an instant. Even the battlefields of the four kingdoms were stopped because of this. Although there was no withdrawal, no one was there. Dare to continue the war. Although Terumi Mei and others were worried about Chenhui's safety, they had an appointment for a year, and they did not act rashly. Until a year later, the impact of this battle gradually faded. In addition, the two sides of the war have never been seen, and the major shinobi villages suddenly couldn't bear it. Gradually, Cloud Shinobi Village began a tentative attack on Konoha. And it became more and more intense, and the tragic level soon recovered to a level what it looked like a year ago. At this time, Iwagakure and Sunagakure also started tentative attacks. And Kurigakure, because Chinhui has not yet returned, so Terumime and others were worried and began to search for Chinhui in the world of ninja. That's 2 years. During the period, some people in Wurin village had the law in their hearts. But now in Wurin village, the peak combat power is on Chinhui's side. Even Chinhui was forced to pull in Orochimaru, who came in, has no idea of rebellion at this stage. And under Chinhui's policy, the fog of Fenrin is no longer obsessed with blood fog. Therefore, with the strength of Terumime and the assistance of all parties, the rebellion has not happened yet. It was completely destroyed. As for the Shikoku battlefield on the other side, the road for the 3 shinobi villages to attack Konoha was not smooth. Konoha's nearly 70% of the strength blocked Cloud Shinobi Village. And the remaining 30% are naturally not the opponents of Sunagakure and Iwagakure, the 2 big ninja villages. Even if Danzo manages Takanen village, it will not be effective in the battle. But in the stable period of this year, Konoha thought of confrontation the way. Sarutobi Hiruzen sent the elders to Sunagakure, and finally succeeded in persuading Sunagakure to help Konoha resist Iwagakure. And Konoha also paid for this, 30% of the task quota in the next 10 years, and a huge amount of resources. Sunagakure after the 3 wars, they have become the weakest force in the 5 ninja villages. Even if Konoha is really defeated, they will not get so many benefits. In addition, if Konoha is really destroyed, then the weakest of them is likely to be the next goal. So considering the balance between the 5 powers, Sunagakure agreed to alliance with Konoha. So Sunagakure sent out ninjas symbolically, dragging down most of Iwagakure's combat power. But they also insisted that they could not fight without fighting. The idea of fighting, and Iwagakure's battle power was too great due to the battle with Chinhui. So the remaining small group of people can't break Konoha's full defense. And Kurigakure has no time to take care of the battle. After all, as long as Chinhui is found, the 4 major countries will not be a problem. Exclamation mark. Therefore, in this way, the 4 major countries entered a stalemate. And they have been in a stalemate for 2 years. In 2 years, the 4 major countries have paid a great loss. Konoha has become more precarious because of its disadvantage. Exclamation mark. But if Iwagakure and Cloud Shinobi Village want to truly defeat Konoha, they also need to pay a painful price. So at this time, Sarutobi Hiruzen initiated peace talks with other countries. And expressed willingness to bear the losses for other countries over the years. Sarutobi Hiruzen, this is also a decision made after careful consideration. After all, if the stalemate continues, it is Konoha who is unlucky. Other countries are also beginning to weigh the gains and losses at this time. This is what Terumime and others are now discussing. Do they want Kurigakure ending at this time, and thus benefit from Konoha? If Chinhui has news, they will not have this meeting. After all, as long as Chinhui is there, everything will be in their pocket. Why plan like this? But the problem is, Chinhui hasn't heard from it for 2 years. So they had to make the worst guess. So after a moment of contemplation, Terumime has also decided. This kind of cheapness does not reduce the price. But she still looked at Uchiha Kwan and asked, Sister Kwan thinks we should do it. After Chinhui left, Uchiha Kwan became the principal of Uchiha under the help of Uchiha Penghai. This is not only because she is Chinhui's younger sister. More importantly, she started Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha Kwan's talent is already very powerful. After all, she started the 3-God Jade at the age of 13. This talent is among the top in the history of Uchiha. And the time to open Mangekyo was the night Chinhui still did not return after the year of appointment. Amidst Terumime's yelling, Kwan quickly recovered from his longing. She is now slim, and she has become a person who can stand alone. But naturally she has no opinion on sending troops to Konoha. I think. However, Kwan just watched. A hearty laughter suddenly sounded. Ha 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 ha. Of course we do. Why don't we do things that make Konoha uncomfortable? Hearing this familiar voice, Everyone present was shocked, and then showed various complex expressions. They knew that this was the existence like a god. Chenhui is back. Brother Chenhui. Uchiha Quan stood up in excitement, scanning for Chenhui's figure. Sorry, although it's a bit late, but I'm back. Chenhui suddenly appeared from behind Quan, and then gently embraced the Quan. The familiar breath let Quan until the person she was thinking of really came back. Brother Chenhui. Quan immediately turned around and hugged Chenhui tightly, for fear that he would disappear in the next second. Chenhui also comfortably touched the head of the sobbing Quan in his arms. He felt that Izumi had already opened Mangekyo, and he was extremely skilled. And according to his calculations, even if Izumi had outstanding talents, it would still take a year to start Mangekyo. This meant that Izumi had experienced great excitement a long time ago, and thus turned on Mangekyo. And Chenhui, who knew Quan's heart, immediately understood the reason for turning on, because of him. Suddenly, Chenhui felt even more pity for Quan in his arms. This girl. The year must have been very painful. The others also stood up when Chenhui appeared and looked at him excitedly. But they did not speak to disturb Chenhui Hekwan. This guy, show affection as soon as he comes back. Tsunade curled his mouth quite uncomfortably, but the joy on his face couldn't be concealed. The same is true of Terumi Mei on the side. Even our snake aunt also revealed her aunt's appearance. Smile. No one knows what Ahe is thinking in his heart. After falling in love with Chenhui for a while, Quan reluctantly left Chenhui's embrace. She is no longer the little girl she used to be, knowing that Chenhui will do a lot of things when she comes back. At this time, Terumi Mei stepped aside and gave the first place to Chenhui. Chenhui sat down without permission, and then said to the others, "Sit down." After everyone sat down, Chenhui looked around and said with a smile, "I just heard you talk about whether to send troops to Konoha now. I think we can send troops." Konoha took the initiative to propose peace talks this time, and he must be ready for hemorrhage. In that case, you might as well make them hurt first before swallowing the ninja world. As soon as Chenhui came back, Terumi Mei immediately entered the state little secretary. She nodded solemnly and said, "Okay, I'll start making arrangements later." Chenhui nodded and continued to ask, "How is the development of the village now?" Terumi Mei reported immediately, "After you leave, the village has been developing rapidly. Plus it has absorbed the Kingdom of Rainbow, and the Kingdom of Water also fully supports it. The financial and resources in the village now have increased nearly 10 times compared to 3 years ago. And Zunzun's elite policy, before the official graduation of the ninja school, the number of Wonin is still 3,000. However, with the accumulation of sufficient resources, now the lowest strength among these people has reached the elite Chunin level. Most of them are special Jonin, there are hundreds of Jonin, and over 100 elite Jonin. But there is only the dry persimmon ghost that has risen to the shadow level. The strongest remaining is, if you don't cut it again, you can have the ability to quasi-shadow with the decapitator." Very nice. Chenhui nodded in satisfaction. Not counting the top powerhouses, the number of these elites is already a little more than 3 times that of Konoha. And the difference in policy is the cause of this gap. The other major ninjutsu villages are extremely for the high-level ninjutsu in the village. Value. Therefore, only a few people can learn advanced ninjutsu only when they meet extremely harsh conditions. And Chenhui doesn't care about these, the so-called advanced ninjutsu. Except for his specialization. Except for the part left to the Uchiha clan, the others are completely open to Kuririn. Therefore, as long as those people work hard enough, they can learn various advanced ninjutsu. In addition, there are fewer people in the Uchiha village and more resources, and these 3,000 mist ninjas, they have all experienced the baptism of war. That's why the strength of this group of Wonin has soared to the current level. Then, how is the development of the Academy of Science and Technology? Chenhui turned his head and looked at Tsunade and Orochimaru on the left. Tsunade said, "It is also developing very quickly. We don't have to worry about lack of resources, so we have conducted a lot of experiments. Some small things, such as TVs, and communication equipment have all developed a new generation. The large-scale equipment has also entered the research phase." At this time Orochimaru continued to add, "With the full support of a major country, I have also made great breakthroughs in biology. Mr. Chinhui is interested, you can visit with me. Seeing Orochimaru speaking, Chinhui's face suddenly showed a rather unexpected expression. You are beyond my expectations. Ha ha. Orochimaru licked his lips and smiled hoarsely. What do you say about Chinhui? Chinhui raised his eyebrows and said, you stayed here forcibly after being defeated by me. I thought that after receiving the news that I was missing for 3 years, you would leave here without hesitation. Or do some small moves in one village. But I didn't expect you to be so stable. Orochimaru said hoarsely. I promised Mr. Chinhui, if I lose to you, I will stay with you and do things safely. I'm not someone who doesn't speak credibility. Moreover, Mr. Chinhui hasn't let me see the real eternal life, so how can I be willing to leave? Besides, Mr. Chinhui left such a magnificent miracle in the Kingdom of Wind, how dare I have any other ideas? Chinhui smiled and shook his head. It seems that I despise you a little bit. At this time, Tsunade couldn't help but ask, that, the one who fought in the Kingdom of Wind is really you? Others also looked at Chinhui with curious eyes. Although they felt that they were Chinhui's strength in front of them is not at that level at this stage. Chinhui nodded and admitted generously, no. Wrong, it's me. Wow, everyone suddenly exclaimed, and then their eyes were fierce, looking at Chinhui with a hint of pride. With this kind of power, it is not too much to say that it is a real god. And such an existence as their leader. Chinhui explained with a smile. I just finished solving Iwagakure that day, so I wanted to go to the Kingdom of Wind to find a suitable place to retreat and practice. I didn't know that I encountered a strong enemy there, so I had a fight with him. Then he was seriously injured and escaped. I also went to a special place because of the turbulence of space. I didn't come back until today. Everyone immediately took a breath. Tsunade said with a shocked expression, this world, there is still an existence comparable to you. Chinhui nodded and said, as far as I am at this level, there are about 4 or 5 in the ninja world, 45. But in the past 3 years, my strength has also gone further. So this group of people is not enough. That's it. The crowd suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. Under the influence of Chinhui, they have regarded the ninja world as something in their pocket. After unification, the ninja world will surely enter true peace under Chinhui's leadership. But what gives them confidence is Chinhui's invincibility, the strength of. If there is a stronger existence than Chinhui at this stage, then their dreams of peace will be directly broken. This is unacceptable for them. Well, since they are all developing steadily, keep it up. Seeing that there were no problems, Chinhui stood up. Except for the group of people who went to the Konoha border to play with Konoha, everyone else should also make preparations. At most 1 month, we will start the pace of unification. Yes, a group of people immediately stood up and responded with enthusiasm. Then, these people turned and walked out. They knew that the next occasion did not belong to them. In the end, only Chinhui and Quan were left in the meeting room. Chinhui smiled at Quan and said, let's go, take me out and see the changes in Wuren village. Okay, Quan nodded vigorously. Then the two disappeared in the meeting room. Chinhui took the spring and walked slowly down the commercial street of Wuren village. In order to prevent being disturbed, he also imposed a small measure to reduce the two of them's sense of existence. Then Chinhui began to tell Quan his experience thousands of years ago. This is not something difficult to tell, so Chinhui doesn't have to hide Quan. After listening to Chinhui's talk, Quan suddenly exclaimed, it turns out that the current ninja world was created by brother Chinhui and sister Kagaya, both of you. Quote. But soon she exclaimed, then Kagaya's sister is still on the moon. Chinhui nodded, then looked cold, and said, I consume a lot when I return, so it takes 2 days to take a break. After 2 days, I will kill the moon and break Kagaya's seal. Quan nodded, and there was no idea of being jealous. Kagaya waited lonely for Chinhui for thousands of years, and the kind-hearted Quan felt very sorry for Kagaya. But soon, Quan's expression suddenly became weird. Then the relationship between us. Chinhui instantly understood Quan's thoughts, and he touched Quan's head a little funny. Hamuora and Hei were both born from the sacred tree, but they have some Kagaya atmosphere. And my existence is very special, the so-called time cause and effect will not appear in me. So Kagaya and I are not your ancestors. Oh, Quan Hanhan nodded. Chenhui touched Quan's little head again, and then dragged her to hang out. In the next few days, Chenhui stayed by Quan's side during the interval of recovery, in order to make up for his debt to Quan over the years. However, occasionally he would visit Tsunade and Terumi Mei. After all, he still has the identity of a leader. Although he has released all affairs and power, he can't even do inspections. During this period, he also saw Orochimaru's progress in the biological field. It is estimated that in 3 or 4 years, Orochimaru will be able to reach the level of creating clones. After all, he has the assistance of the resources of the entire water country. And in order to reward Orochimaru, Chenhui also said about one formula and part of Otsutsuki. And said that it will be handed over to him for research soon. Orochimaru was mobilized all his interests, and he will even work harder to specialize in research. And too has grown a lot, now Shimaru's most powerful assistant. As for Junmaro, who was abducted by Orochimaru a long time ago, now under the joint research of Tsunade and Orochimaru, he has cured his bloodline disease. Then, Chenhui took the time to see Shang Shang. Phosphorus, Heavy Us. These people admire him very much, so he naturally wants to see him after he comes back. It is worth mentioning that these little guys plus Junmaro and Shiro have become very good friends. What are you leaving again? A roar instantly stunned all the birds that stopped outside Mizukage's office. Nana, don't be so excited. Chenhui looked at Terumi Mei, who was frantic in front of him, and rubbed his ears slightly. Terumi Mei ignored Chenhui's comfort and still roared, "You threw everything to me 3 years ago. Now that you've finally come back, let's not talk about it all by yourself, at least, you have to choose a few important things to make decisions. You are Mizukage, okay, and the shopkeeper is not what you did." Chenhui touched his nose, and said embarrassingly, "Xiao Mingming, I don't trust you." When Chenhui was elected to Mizukage, they agreed that Chenhui only deals with big issues, while Terumi Mei deals with small issues. But after Terumi Mei showed her outstanding ability, Chenhui left everything to Terumi Mei in one mind. So now Terumi Mei is so angry, Chenhui also has a little guilty conscience. The relationship between them is already very good. Yes, very good. So Chenhui couldn't stand up, and forced Terumi Mei to order. Chenhui could not help but complain secretly, "Oh, I just entered. Good time in Wonen village. What do I say? Xiao Mingming will do what he will do, and there will never be the slightest resistance. It's fine now, you don't have to be afraid of me anymore if you get acquainted with me." Although he was complaining, Chenhui was not angry. And Terumi Mei's angry roar was only a moment, and she quickly threw it behind her. But she still asked unhappy, "What are you going to do this time?" "Destroy the moon." Chenhui's eyes are so serious and joking. Hiss. Terumi Mei suddenly took a breath. She didn't think Chenhui was joking. After a moment of shock, she couldn't help but vomit, as for making such a big movement every time. Last time I picked Rock Shinobi, and then there was a showdown of the gods. It's even more outrageous now, even going to destroy the moon. And the moon didn't provoke you, it looks so beautiful at night, why bother to destroy it? Chenhui said lightly, "The moon is actually a seal, and it is the person who is most important to me that seals it. So, it must be. If you like it, wait until I destroy this and create another one." Okay. Terumi Mei is no longer able to complain, but she is also a little touched by Chenhui's last sentence. Then, she looked at Chenhui seriously, and said with care, "Be careful of everything." Chenhui stood up and nodded. "Don't worry, my current strength is enough to sweep everything." Gone. With that, Chenhui disappeared into the room in an instant. Be careful. Although knowing that with Chenhui's strength, there may be little problems, Terumi Mei still prayed quietly. Then, 4 people each came in with a stack of half-person high documents. "Advisor, these are today's documents." Terumi Mei turned her head to look, and then instantly petrified in the same place. Then, the worries suddenly turned into endless roars. This guy. But after the roar, Terumi Mei can only quickly enter the working state and start processing these files. These files are not just for Wonen village, but more about the entire water country. After all, in order to completely control the water country, Terumi Mei can only take care of the entire water country by himself. On the other hand, Chenhui also set foot on the road to the moon. He did not look for the road to the moon through the ninja world, but flew directly to outer space. Go. At his level, spacewalking is already a breeze. At Chenhui's extreme speed, soon, the moon will be near. The moon in this world is very different from Chenhui's previous life. Before and after the moon appeared, there was no change in the ninja world. The tidal action of the moon is completely useless in this world. And because it is artificially made, the interior of the moon is also a place suitable for living. Soon, Chenhui's landed on the surface of the moon. Chenhui could feel that under his feet, the interior of the moon had 3 auras. One was very weak, and the other had a 6-level power. And the last one is also the one at the center of the moon, but it is so familiar to Chenhui, that is the person who has been with him for more than 10 years. Chenhui took a deep breath and murmured, "Don't worry, I will let you out." With that said, Chenhui stomped down, and a radius of several hundred meters instantly collapsed downwards. This blow actually penetrated the moon's shell directly. Then, Chenhui no longer concealed his breath, and quickly galloped into the moon. The moon is a 6-level seal, especially the center of the seal, which cannot be directly reached with space power. So Chenhui can only destroy the seal from the outside first. And just when Chenhui just landed on the moon, the giant Tensegan issued a warning to Otsutsuki Sharon. Someone has come to the moon. Otsutsuki raised his head, his hollow eyes seemed to be able to see the surface of the moon. Then he whispered to the empty hall, "The situation on the moon cannot be exposed yet, go and kill the intruder." However, in the next instant, before any reaction appeared, Sharon felt a sudden violent vibration. What's going on? Otsutsuki Sharon was shocked. Then through the giant Tensegan, Sharon noticed an extremely powerful aura, and was quickly approaching him. Such aura is dozens of times stronger than his father. Sharon opened his mouth in horror. He once observed the ninja world with his father, and in his memory, his father should be the strongest person in the world. But he did not expect that he would meet someone better than him today. Father still has a strong presence. Sharon soon woke up, and then hurriedly shouted to the surrounding, "Quick! Go and stop him." Before Sharon's father died, he always told him that they are the most noble beings in the world. Sharon has always been proud of this, and he regards the creatures of the ninja world as ants. But today, for the first time, he felt unprecedented fear. Under this coercion, his pride began to shatter quickly. With the hysterical yelling of the Sharon, countless red lights appeared in the dark inside the moon, and all the puppets suddenly opened their eyes. These countless puppets rushed to the direction of Chenhui's advance. And all of this was in Chenhui's sense. Chenhui couldn't help but sneered, "Manipulate the puppet kid. He is not in the mood to accompany this group of puppets right now. He just wants to rescue Kagaya as soon as possible, in order to make up for the guilt in his heart." Therefore, Chenhui directly opened his arms, super spicy stuffing. Suddenly, a huge repulsive force with Chenhui as the center swept across the 4 directions. Those puppets have not yet appeared, they are instantly turned into fragments under this huge repulsive force. And this repulsive force has not ended, it will encounter little by little all the matter of smashed to pieces. In the end, everything within dozens of miles was successfully destroyed, and this place was turned into a vacuum. Then, Chenhui came to Otsutsuki Sharon in an expressionless moment. You, who the hell is it? Sharon felt the arrival of Chenhui, and suddenly began to back away in horror. Chenhui sneered when he heard the words, "Who am I? I am your ancestor." With that said, Chenhui stretched out his hand and instantly sucked the receding Sharon into the palm of her hand, and firmly grasped his neck. Sharon immediately began to struggle constantly. But now he does not have Tensegan, and his own strength can reach, that's it. So he has no resistance in front of Chenhui. Chenhui ignored Sharon's struggle, but looked aside. "If you don't come out, the last bloodline will be gone." Sharon stopped struggling, and he was very confused by Chenhui's words. After his father died, he was the only one left on the moon. But soon, an old sigh came out. Sharon's face suddenly appeared. After a change, there are actually other people on the moon. Chenhui sneered, "I thought you would keep hiding." Before his eyes, countless chakras gradually solidified into a figure. And this figure is Otsutsuki Hamura's chakra form. Hamura sighed, and then asked in a deep voice, "You who came to the moon and why?" "Who am I?" Chinhui sneered. Then he sneered, "Are you sure you don't know who I am?" Hamura frowned slightly. He did not have any impression of Chinhui, but he still began to observe Chinhui's appearance seriously. Gradually, memories from 1,000 years ago began to appear in his mind. Soon, Hamura's eyes widened. He did see Chinhui's appearance, but he did not see it with his own eyes, but through a portrait. And that portrait is his mother Keigaya's most beloved item. And the person in that portrait is Keigaya's husband, theoretically his father. Hamura couldn't help but asked in shock, "Are you, father?" Chinhui smiled coldly and said, "Father, I can't bear this status. If you do that kind of animal stuff, you still have the face to call me your father." Hearing this, Yumura suddenly looked guilty. He naturally knew what Chinhui was talking about. And if he did that kind of thing, he was indeed not qualified to call Chinhui a father. Chinhui looked at Yukin coldly. "It's easy. Believe the lies of outsiders, and then combined with outsiders to deal with his mother. After knowing the truth of the matter, I still don't know how to repent. Let your mother be lonely and sealed here for thousands of years. In the beginning, Keigaya shouldn't have given you 2 lives, you are not worthy." Hamura stammered guiltily. He is a little different from Yuya after all. After sealing Keigaya, he chose to take his tribe to the moon. It is a kind of psychological atonement. But it is still not enough for Chinhui to forgive him. He knows that what he did is wrong, but still has done the wrong thing. Then no matter how he atones, he can't forgive. Chinhui looked at him coldly and said, "Now I want to unlock Keigaya's seal, are you here to stop me?" Yumura lowered his head silently, not daring to look into Chinhui's eyes. "Then get out of me." Chinhui shook the Sharon at Yukin, and Sharon went straight through Yukin and slammed into the wall behind him and passed out. Then Chinhui went on to the center of the moon without looking back. "Punishment for you, just wait for Keigaya to decide." Chinhui walked towards the center of the moon step by step. The more you go in, the stronger your depressed aura. At the same time, the fierce oppression and rejection will become stronger. Even if it is a shadow class, you will not have the slightest ability to resist in front of this oppressive feeling. But this kind of power is nothing more than pediatrics in front of Chinhui. Chinhui's complexion continues to move forward, and the sense of oppression is getting stronger and stronger. Knowing that the center is already in front of you, this sense of oppression has reached 6 levels. At this time, Chinhui had a reaction. He instantly entered the 6 modes, and the huge aura suddenly swept all around. And that sense of oppression in front of Chinhui's aura could not set off the wave of flowers and disappeared almost instantly. Trace. The current Chinhui's strength is combined with 10 Tails chakra, plus the 6th level chakra. And his Shanshu chakra was 1,000 years ago, but on the basis of the 6th level, it was broken once by the system. So at this time, Chinhui's strength was slightly stronger than Keigaya when he was sealed. If this is a single person's strength to create a seal that can seal Keigaya, Chinhui will feel a bit tricky. But it can seal Keigaya's seal, but it was created by Yumura and Yuya, plus the 3 great immortals of that era. So Chinhui was confident enough to break this seal. In the distance behind Chinhui, Yui slowly followed. Of course, he didn't even think about stopping Chinhui. After all, according to common sense, he is now a dead man. But because he is a 6th level existence, relying on his own energy, he can achieve eternal life in a special way. And this time, Hamura followed when I came up. I just wanted to see the scene when Keigaya was released. At that time, when Keigaya gave Hamura and Hakata her aura of life, they absorbed different amounts. Hamura absorbed most of the breath of Keigaya, combined with the energy of a small part of the sacred tree, and it was born. On the other hand, Yui only absorbed a small part of Keigaya's breath, and his body was more of the power of the sacred tree. Therefore, Yui was closer to Keigaya than Yui. So only he hesitated when sealing Keigaya. But in the end I made the wrong choice. Part of the reason for all this is that the sacred tree was plucked when the fruit was incomplete, so its power can make people become greedy. Keigaya eliminated this with the help of Chinhui negative emotions, but Hamura and Hei are not so lucky. They have more or less the power of the sacred tree, coupled with the skyrocketing strength, so when they sealed Keigaya, they were full of negative emotions. Also, therefore, even though they knew the truth, they still chose to seal Keigaya. Because Yoruichi disappeared, they are the masters of this land. Because the power of the sacred tree in Hamura is less, it is more Keigaya's power, therefore, the influence of the sacred tree on him was minimal. But in the end he chose to seal Keigaya. Over the years, he has also borne a lot of regrets. Although the current practice cannot be the atonement, but it can also make him feel better. Even if he knows that Wei Yoruichi will be released, he will completely disappear in the world of ninja. Because even if Keigaya does not take action, Chenhui will not let him, the second and fifth boy, continue to live. Soon after, Chenhui will come at the heart of the moon. And in front of him is a black ball with a diameter of tens of meters. This black ball is extremely powerful, which not only prevents people from getting out, but also keeps the moon from collapsing. Chenhui looked at what was in front of him. Haicho murmured, "Don't worry, I'll let you out right away." Then, he turned his head and looked at Hamura, who had just arrived. "As for you, for the sake of safety, stay there honestly." With that, Chenhui stretched out his right hand towards Yukon. Wow! Wow! Several cracking sounds sounded, and I saw that the truth-seeking balls behind Chenhui suddenly turned into black sticks and attacked Yumura. Before Yumura could react, he directly nailed him in place. After doing all this, Chenhui turned around and put his hand on the black ball, and began to use his own strength to destroy the black ball inch by inch. He can't directly break the black ball with brute force, although this saves time. So at this time Keigaya in it is just an ordinary shadow class. Her power turned into 10 tails and was pulled out. Therefore, once the black ball is violently broken, Keigaya will definitely suffer huge damage. This is Chenhui's unwillingness to watch when it arrives. He doesn't want Keigaya to suffer any more injuries. So he can only choose this way of grinding time. Time has passed a little bit, and in this dark space, it is difficult to know how long it has passed. However, the gravitational force generated by the black ball within it has become a little bit weaker. I don't know how long it has passed, Kacha. A cracking sound suddenly sounded on the black ball. Then, click, crack, the sound of became more and more dense. In the end, the black ball was directly exploded. The black fragments fell a little bit, and gradually revealed Keigaya, who seemed to be falling asleep inside. With a slight choke, Keigaya's eyes moved. Chenhui gently placed his hand next to Keigaya's cheek, and whispered, "I'm back." Following his words, Keigaya opened her eyes completely. First she rolled her eyes to look around in confusion, and then stopped her gaze on the face of the person in front of her. Suddenly, her pupils opened slightly, and the corners of her eyes revealed a touch. With a smile, he whispered softly, Chenhui. Chenhui gently grabbed Keigaya's hand and placed it on his face, and said again, "It's me, I'm back." Keigaya stroked Chenhui's cheek, then smiled and murmured, "I seem to have a long dream." Hearing what Keigaya said, Chenhui suddenly understood that Keigaya fell into a deep sleep after being sealed. He suddenly looked a little slow, and said secretly, "That's fine, at least I can't feel loneliness." At this time, Keigaya's memory before the seal was slowly awakened in his mind. Soon, she completely recovered. Suddenly, a touch of coldness appeared on her face. Keigaya said coldly, "I have been betrayed." Chenhui nodded, his expression also chilled instantly. "I know, he is there." Then, he pointed to Hamura, who was fixed in place by him. Keigaya looked in the direction, and when he saw Hamura, his face suddenly showed pain. "Mother." Hamura lowered his head and dared not look directly at Keigaya's eyes. "Why? You want to betray me?" Toru Yoruichi walked towards Hamura step by step. She was not angry about being misunderstood by Hamura and Hei. Because she didn't care about the two children too much, it made them misunderstand them. She was angrily that she knew the truth, but Hamura and Hei still betrayed her. And also took away her body. The strength prevented her from breaking the seal, but she could only fall into a 1,000-year-old sleep. At this time, Chenhui walked to Keigaya's side. He said coldly, "You gave them life back then. Since they chose to betray, then you should get back what you gave them." A trace of pain flashed across Keigaya's face. She really didn't want to attack Hamura. Even if Hamura betrayed her, he had been her son for decades. Chenhui saw this, but he did not hesitate to take a step forward. Keigaya couldn't bear it. Do it, but he won't. And Kagaya just broke the seal and needs energy recovery. It just so happens that Hamura's energy can be used to atone for him. Chinhui pointed his hand at Yumura, and the majestic 6 powers erupted from the palm of his hand. At the same time, Rinnegan's pupil power also began to erupt. Under this force, Yumura only felt that his consciousness became more and more blurred. Chinhui was actually planning to get rid of it directly. Hamura's consciousness has completely refined him into pure energy. Kagaya closed her eyes and turned her head slightly when she saw this. She couldn't bear to see this. After all, Hamura got his life because of her. Even if he was betrayed, her heart was kind. She has never been affected by the sacred tree, but she still has a touch of licking love for Hamura. But she knows Chinhui's character. The moment the Hamura brothers hurt her, the fate has been doomed. After all, Yumura is just an energy body at this time. To Chinhui in his peak state, his consciousness quickly dissipated. Before dissipating, Hamura said the apology that was hidden in his heart for thousands of years, "I'm sorry, Mother." But, after all, it was too late. And it was more than 1,000 years late. Chinhui and Kagaya had no reason to forgive him. Then, Hamura's figure disappeared and turned into the purest chakra. Chinhui picked up this chakra, once again thought of it, and turned it into 2 balls, one big and one small. The big one, Chinhui lifted it to Kagaya. "This was originally yours, let's restore it." This energy is the breath of life that Kagaya gave to the Hamura brothers at the beginning, and it accounts for almost 80% of the original. After thousands of years of accumulation, the energy in it has been extremely magnificent. So Chinhui has just raised in front of Kagaya, the energy automatically melted into Kagaya's body. Suddenly, Kagaya's dried up life became vigorous again. When the Hamura brothers sealed Kagaya, they extracted all the power from the fruit of the sacred tree in her body, forming 10 tails. Therefore, Kagaya's strength in the seal is actually a little stronger than when she first came to the ninja. She can persist until now, and more depends on the unique vitality of the Otsutsuki clan. But even after more than 1,000 years of consumption, even if it is the pure blood of Otsutsuki can't hold it. If it were an ordinary shadow level, it would have been turned into a handful of loess. This is why Chinhui can't forgive the Hamura brothers. Has absorbed the energy of the 6th level. Kagaya's life finally recovered to its peak. Although the remaining energy was very small, it also made Kagaya reach the super shadow level. Seeing this, Chinhui also began to absorb the energy of the sacred tree in his hand. A lot of Chinhui's power now comes from 10 tails, so even if Kagaya absorbs the remaining, his strength will not be restored to its peak. After all, Kagaya has no system and cannot rely on a little energy to make infinite breakthroughs. Moreover, Chinhui has already regarded the ninja world as something in the bag, and it is impossible to destroy the entire ninja world in order to restore Kagaya. Therefore Chinhui has found power for her, that is the 10 tails in Yishi's hand. Yishi is the home city. For it, the potential of that 10 tails must be very strong. So turning it into the source of Kagaya's power, Kagaya's potential will definitely be greatly enhanced. "Let's go, I will take you to see the current ninja world." Chinhui took Kagaya's hand and took her out of this space in an instant. As soon as they left, this space began to collapse quickly. This is an unstable sealed space, which can exist completely because of the energy that sealed the core of Kagaya. Now that the core is destroyed by Chinhui, this space will naturally disappear. And as this space disappeared, the entire moon began to tremble constantly. Chinhui and Kagaya, who had already appeared on the surface of the moon, saw the ground under their feet rapidly cracking at a speed visible to the naked eye. The entire surface of the moon is now covered with cracks, and without the restraint of gravity, the broken earth and rocks began to float into the universe. Seeing this, Chinhui murmured, "I promised Terumime when I left, then give it to let's rebuild." With that said, Chinhui is about to start taking action on Double 11. However, at this moment, an angry shout suddenly appeared. "Asshole, you actually destroyed the moon." Chinhui turned his head and saw that Sharon actually jumped out of the cracked crack. His hollow eyes looked directly at Chinhui and Kagaya. His facial features were already twisted together because of anger. Chinhui frowned slightly, and said coldly, "I almost forgot. And you, why bother to jump out and die?" Sharon didn't care about Chinhui's words, and roared, the moon is my weapon to destroy the ninja world and change the world again. You destroy it, even if you destroy the future of this world. Asshole, if that's the case, then you will disappear with the moon. Chenhui said coldly. Crazy talk. He really didn't want to listen to Sharon's nonsense, so he stretched out his right hand at Sharon, ready to kill him directly. However, in the next instant, the change happened suddenly. Only a golden ball of light quickly passed from Sharon's feet. He popped out, and then stayed on top of his head. Then, Sharon began to slowly float upward. While floating, he shouted at Chenhui, disappear under the power of Tensegan. Because Tensegan was not as broken as the original, Sharon did not use himself as a carrier at this time. Then, Chenhui saw that the giant Tensegan began to condense the surrounding energy. Even the energy of the sun was slowly absorbed by it. And as the energy became more condensed, the golden brilliance of the giant Tensegan became more and more dazzling. Seeing this, Chenhui also began to gather energy quickly in the palm of his hand. Although he can directly interrupt the Sharon, but the Tensegan that is gathering energy can directly explode. Chenhui is very interested in the pupil power of this Tensegan. Yes, so he was going to defeat Tensegan's attack first, and then take down this Tensegan. It didn't take long for Chenhui's attack to be solid, but Sharon was still absorbing energy. Sharon was only a shadow level after all. Even with the help of the external force of Tensegan, Chenhui's strength is the same. Although Tensegan can absorb the energy of the sun, it is also limited. And Chenhui, besides his own vast 6 powers, he can still borrow the natural energy of heaven and earth. So he was not afraid of Tensegan's blow. After a while, this blow from the family was condensed. He didn't know Chenhui was waiting for him, and he didn't know that Chenhui was waiting for him, and he laughed wildly. You can't stop the power of God, go to death for me. As soon as the voice fell, a golden beam of light instantly struck Chenhui. Chenhui only curled his lips disdainfully when he saw this, and said, I have waited for you for so long, and power is nothing more than that. As he said, the energy in Chenhui's hand hit the golden beam first. The entire moon fell silent for a moment. Then, a storm of energy that could tear the space quickly swept across the entire moon. At this time, the ninja world below was at night. Tonight also happened to be at the time of the full moon. 2 drunk men were sitting in the courtyard drinking, and a drunk who was already dizzy looked up at the moon in a trance. In the next instant, there was a flush of flesh on his face. Then he laughed and pointed to the air. Hey, look, the moon burst. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.